Hey guys, Michael Strange here. This is an interview I did with my good friend Algo Rhythm. He's got a YouTube channel under that name, and the link is in the description below. Please excuse the audio. He was doing the interview. We were on his YouTube channel, and so because it wasn't coming through my system and my setup, the audio is going to be a little less, but the conversation is worthy and fantastic. We had a hell of a time. And if you like this type of stuff, please give Mike a follow. All the links are in the description. And thanks for listening, guys. Catch you soon.
You're listening to Algo Radio with your host, Mike Steele.
It's all bullshit, folks. It's all bullshit, and it's bad for you.
How's it going? Welcome. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. I dropped something, and I'm not going to be able to find it right now, so I just have to let that go. I want to say hi. Happy Saturday night. You are listening to us again. Generally, if you've been here before, you know we read some news and speak with the good men and women of the internet who click the StreamYard link. But tonight we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to speak with a radio host from the Fringe FM. His name is Michael Strange. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how I found him. I know how a lot of you found him, at least the ones on my channel. If you're here from Michael's channel and you haven't seen us before, give a wave. And if anybody's mean to you, they will be kicked out. Just kidding. Nobody's mean here. We're having fun. We're going to cover some things and say hi. So let's say hi to Michael first. Just kidding. Nobody's mean here. We're having fun. We're going to cover some things and say hi. So let's say hi to Michael first.
Good evening.
Just kidding.
It's okay.
Nobody's mean here. We're having fun. We're going to cover some things and say hi. So let's say hi to Michael first.
Good evening.
Just kidding.
It's okay.
Nobody's mean here. We're having fun.
We're
going to cover some things and say hi. So let's say hi to Michael first.
Good evening.
Just kidding.
It's okay.
Nobody's mean. We're in a loop there, Michael.
I've got
We're going to cover some things. Got a little bit of a loop. Not sure what's happening on Michael's end, but he'll fix it. We'll check back in, see if he's here. There we go.
Good to go. What's up, guys?
Hey, we are fixed. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Just living the dream. You know, like I always say, living the dream. Sipping beer and talking about amazing things. It's hard to go wrong, right?
Sipping beer and talking about amazing things. Cheers to you.
You as well, sir.
So you have a program on the Fringe FM, and you simulcast on Rockfin and YouTube and probably Twitch and who knows where else, everywhere. I've got the links down in the bottom so people can find you if they don't already know you. But I was curious. When I first saw you and I saw your channel, I'm like, okay, this is a very cool premise. You cover a wide variety of topics, everything probably from Gobekli Tepe to aliens to ancient astronauts to mud flood, I'm sure, and everything in between. And so I'm watching, and I know another channel or another broadcaster in Scotland that does that. His name's Kev Baker. He covers all things woo. And I was just kind of curious, what made you decide that path? What's your interest? How'd you get started on those kind of topics?
So it just goes back a long way, right? In the sense that I love stories, I love storytelling, and a lot of the mystery that is kind of in our day-to-day life is stories. It's exactly that, right? Except it's, a lot of it gets suppressed as, woo-woo or, fake news and all the rest of whatever you can call it today, which clearly, I mean, just because you talk about it doesn't mean you believe it, right? I also kind of take the stance of, like Aristotle said, this is to paraphrase, but you can't, the mark of an educated mind is to consider an idea, but not accept it, right? Considers a thought, but not accept it as truth. And I think that's part of what all this is, right? So to start to answer the question, like you said, at the very young age, we had this beautiful blue book, hardbound book on our coffee table. It's Mysteries of the Unexplained or something to that effect, and it had all kinds of stuff in it. It had frogs falling from the sky. It had UFOs. It had cryptids and chupacabras and all the crazy stuff you would expect. And it was just one of those things, kind of tickled that part of my brain that really said the world isn't like we think it is, and even if all that stuff in that book wasn't true, it kind of doesn't matter, because it's more of it's an exploration, right, of not just not just human sovereignty, the ability to think for ourselves, but it's a great way to tell stories, right? It's a great way to, kind of the cringe joke is, oh, Michael, oh, good job, Mike, you're on the internet telling ghost stories, right? But it's like kinda, but also kinda not, right? It's about philosophy. It's about, like I said, the humanity, the sovereignty of the human mind, all the rest of that stuff. It's about so many other things, not just the aliens, or not just, like there are really, really advanced concepts in these simple mythology, folklore type stories. So that's what got me here today, kind of doing the radio thing and talking about weird stuff, because, well, it is a strange world, isn't it? As I always say, right? We live in the upside down, and it feels more and more every day like that's the damn truth, doesn't it?
It sure does. And I can tell you, one thing I really like about what you do is not only do you have regular co-hosts / callers, but all of their perspectives on a topic aren't an echo chamber. You do get into a lot of variations based on a single topic. And I think most nights, and Michael does broadcast Monday through Thursday at 7:00 Pacific time on the Fringe FM, also on YouTube. So make sure you catch those. But I'll hear the topic, and then I'll bounce in for a minute, and then I'm doing something, and then I'll come back, and you'll be on something completely different. That it washed its way over there, and it worked itself back. And it's just a great, like you said, it's a great mind exploration. And I think that's what hooked me on it was my brain, we had Reader's Digest sitting around when I was a kid. So I did not have the same, oh my gosh, the world may not be this way. I was reading jokes and learning recipes and reading Irma Bombeck. And so it kind of put me on a different way. And if you're old enough to remember the Reader's Digest, yeah, so it's a lot of fun over there. So I encourage people. So I guess I don't want to interview you specifically, but what's your favorite topic of something that may not be what we think it is?
First, before that, I do remember the Reader's Digest, and we did have that when we were young as well, mostly in the dentist office when you're waiting to get a tooth pulled or something.
Yeah.
but yeah, for sure. And my mom even infamously in the family says, no, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. So yeah, totally. Totally. But okay. I think topic wise, I think it's about, this may seem boring, coming from the alien guy or whatever, but I think probably the most important thing to me is it's the whole freedom of speech bit, right? The whole we shouldn't be told what to think, and it seems we've got a whole lot of that in this day and age, and that's kind of really like the whole alien stuff is and paranormal and all the rest of that. There's some legitimacy to a lot of that. It just depends on which thing you're talking about, right? Is it all true? Of course not. Of course not. A lot of it's going to be clickbait on the internet and whatnot. But I think that's probably the most important thing to me is just the ability to, back to that, a human sovereignty thing where we should be able to control our own thoughts, our own destiny, right? And, it goes back to Rod Serling a little bit, the Twilight Zone. He had famously a really rough time in World War II, as many people did, right? He actually fought in World War II, ended up almost killed a couple times. He was out there at in the Pacific fighting the Japanese, and it was just a horrific time. And he came out of that and was broken, just kind of mentally broken. And he started doing things like this, like the radio dramas. If anybody knows the Twilight Zone, it's exactly that. It's like it's more of sort of telling stories, but then telling your experience through these stories. And then so he got more and more into it. The Twilight Zone ended up becoming sort of a more like a, what would you call it? Like a kind of like a sounding board on the way the world is. And he was just telling them through like freaky stuff, through paranormal type stories, or, time shifts and phasing into different dimensions and things like this. Right. So I think that, and he realized, I think at some point, that if you talk about aliens, right, you can kind of get away with talking about anything because you're written off as the alien guy, right? This nut believes in aliens or believes in, parallel dimensions and crap like this. But if, right, you can kind of weave in some political stuff into there, right? Whether it's, not vote for this guy or vote for that guy. I'm, famously non-political these days, just because the system is letting everybody down, in my opinion. But I think that's a political take, right? Is that the system has failed us. And if you can weave some of that into alien stories, right, it's a way to get a message out in an entertaining way and explore all kinds of other things, And so it's kind of a way to dodge the censorship, sort of like what's it called? Like The Onion or like the Babylon Bee with the satire, right? It's kind of a way to fly under that radar a little bit, because they're like, oh, aliens, this guy's just talking about aliens. But I'm not. I'm totally not, right? I am, but I'm also not. There's a lot more to it than that.
Right.
There you go. Was that long-winded enough for you?
Perfect.
Thank you.
And it gives me some things to talk to you about. But before we do that, I do want to say hi to the nice people who came to see us tonight. You guys could be anywhere in the internet or even in the analog world. And since you're here with us, we want to say hello to Zenwen. Chappelle is here. King Claudio. As usual, Ellie B is working the night shift, but she's still here. Jennifer Hawkins. Dearest Dawn is here. Rebel TV is here. He woke up early to see this. He's in Norway. Nice. Denmark. Sorry, he's in Denmark. My bad. Fathead's Adventure and Homesteading is in California. Doc Michael is all over the world. Jennifer Hawkins is here. Liam Martin. I got to put my glasses on. I know the ones that I come here all the time, but the other ones I can't read. So Liam Martin. Hey, Liam Martin. Nice to see you. Pyramid 7. Hello. Brenda Mitchell. Ken Claudio. We already mentioned Ken Claudio. We could talk about him way too much. The Night Stalker is here. Good to see you. Some regulars from Michael Strange's world, Ronnie Powell, and everybody else who we miss. We will see you. Allison Briscoe, Matt Chapman, Jill Colorado. Hey, Jill. Haven't seen you for a long time. Axie Steele. That's a great last name, just for the record.
It's fake.
Mine's not fake.
It's fake. It's a fake name. I know Axel. He's my buddy. It's a fake name.
Daryl Perrier, Jay Miller, all the good people came to join us. Yeah, with Rod Serling, I thought what was real interesting is, and I kind of picked this up at the time. Daryl Perrier, hey, how you doing? I kind of picked this up as a teenager because we saw reruns on public television, Channel 12, KBD at Broomfield, and I'm not advertising for them. I don't know why my brain does that stuff, but.
That's okay.
The bunker episode where the nuclear fallout was coming and you had to save yourself or protect your family. There was a lot of commentary on mainstream society, the way society was at the time, with division and class warfare and a lot of things. And I think they did a masterful job and really set the bar pretty high for that. It's not satire. I mean, it is to a degree, but it's not what people typically think of as satire. The shows that tried to follow after, like Night Stalker, for one, there was the other one with the Night Gallery. Sorry, not Night Stalker, Night Gallery. They attempted it, but I don't think they got the main premise. So, like you say, I think he wrote most of those and co-wrote a lot of them, and they would pick a topic like. For example, I think right now they may do an episode where people are being divided, like the episode with World War II with the Gold Star, to where people are being divided in a way that they don't really have much say over. They don't want to be divided. The division is purely nonsensical, and they maybe do it in an over-the-top kind of way. Like, if you have blue eyes, you can't go anywhere. Just blue-eyed people can't go anywhere. Something that seemed ridiculous, put a little scary spin on it. And you're talking about what we're experiencing right now worldwide in society.
Yeah, well, and I think you'd have to be blind to miss that, and that's the problem, right? Is a lot of people out there do miss it. They don't understand what's going on. They think this is par for the course, and this is not. The world is changing, and it's changing fast. And we're probably of the age where in that middle age vein where we've done it. Like we were young and 20 and wanted to get drunk and get laid, and it kind of got past that and got onto other parts of our lives. And then, well, it's up to us. This is in our lap to spread this message that the world is changing quickly, and it's changing in a dangerous way. And I don't think we have to accept it. I just don't think we do. I think that's part of this, is that, hey, if there's going to be torchbearers out there, people got to stand up and say enough. This is enough. Like, people think for yourself. Don't listen to the propaganda and the dogma of the party, the 1984 style. Like, this is coming. I don't know if we can curse on your channel. There you go. There's one way to put it. Nice t-shirt. But so it's coming. It's on the way. And there needs to be a group of people to stand up and says no. And I think no. What's up, everybody in the chat? I see you guys too. Hello. Thanks for shouting me out in there, saying hello to Michael Strange on the Algo radio channel. What's up? Go right ahead, sir. I told you I can talk.
I know you can, and it's good. We both have plenty of verbiage, I'm sure, but we got a lot to cover. So I do want somebody who is in our chat to go over to Odyssey and make sure that the stream is running. I'm trying to simulcast on both. StreamYard will let me do 3, so I got 2 of them going. So if somebody could just go over there, check in, come back, give us a heads up in chat, and that would be helpful. I think you're right. Robert Ellis is present. 21 Julio Mahomes is here too. Sorry, I got to quit doing that. But Gen X has a responsibility because we are that in-between generation. And pretty much we're talking 35 to 55-ish, somewhere in there, somewhere roughly. We grew up before the internet. We were working jobs and out of high school and a lot of that stuff, or maybe entering high school. I had computers, but it wasn't the internet. We did basic programming. So we understand the difference, the way a mind virus travels, the way mimetic warfare is actually a thing that's going on 24/7. And I agree that people do need to stand up. I do wear t-shirts that I put in a Teespring store. This one's since retired when I thought they were backing off a little bit, but it's going to have to come back. They recently imposed a indoor restriction, face mask restriction, in the county in which I live, called Jefferson in Colorado. And Denver County, Arapahoe County, Adams County did it too. Douglas County, which is separated by a road, clearly that's the way counties work in the western states, one single highway, and then you got another county. On the other side of the highway, you're safe and you don't have to wear it, and their businesses are thriving. And
trust the science.
Right. If only, right? If only, please. But their businesses are doing well and they're thriving. And the mom restaurants and the pop restaurants they're all full, and all the ones over here, they're not, because people are tired of it. I think what my message has been for 10 months or more than that, I don't know, 20 months, how long has this been going on, that our solution is not to fight it, but to walk away from it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that. I think any sort of protest is good at this point. The first part to change in it is you got to be aware that it's broken beyond repair, right? I think that's the thing. You have to understand what's happening to us, and it is. We've talked about this on Troubled Minds quite a bit. The boil the frog thing, as they change things slowly, it's slipping. But if you don't notice until they force you inside and force medicate you and put you in a rubber room and tell you you're safe, right? I mean, like, if that's what it takes, if it's getting to that point where they literally remove every ounce of your freedom for you to finally realize what happened, it's far too late. It is far too late. And that's why, and again, you talked about it earlier, the division, right? We don't want to be divided. Like what, how powerful we would be if we were just together, that we have so much more in common than any of the rest of this BS, the lines they draw and the things they tell us and what we're supposed to believe. No, like, we're people. We have a lot of common interest, and the difference is I truly believe we can work out. And that's part of the show too. Part of what we do is it's like, hey, like, come chill, come hang out, come listen, come expand your mind a little bit, come think about the world as a different place in a different way. That's it, right? That's step one. And if it takes aliens to do that, so be it, right? So be it. It's about the world. It's about you in the world and your perception of your own reality. That's what it's all about. And like you said, if nobody stands up, nobody will. Somebody needs to be calling this out and pointing fingers and saying, hey, look how broken this is. Look around. It's not an illusion. You're not imagining things. It's happening. This is real. This is our life right now.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, for me anyway, when I first I don't know, I was a teenager, and I like 14, and I just thought that, this place is wrong. These people are wrong. It's not right. Something's going on. And then you put it away, and you discover girls, and you discover jobs and cars, and you kind of put it away. And then later in life, I kind of found it again. And what I found myself in about 2007, I found that David Icke character when I was researching Barack Obama.
David Icke. Nice.
Yeah, which led me to Alex Jones for a very short period of time, and the movie Loose Change, and 9/11, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And when I sit here and I look at it now, to me, it's not just that our politics is broken. It's that virtually everything in our institutions, for lack of a better word, are anti-human. They're negative. They're detrimental to our well-being. None of them support us in any kind of way. If I license my relationship with the state, then not only does the state benefit, but me and her suffer if we decide to go our separate ways. So, I mean, I'm looking at this entire picture and wanting to be Amish in the worst way, but they're not taking applications anymore. So, breakaway society, maybe. That's why I say walk away. I do agree. Protest, getting your voice out there, making videos, sharing your thoughts, listening to people, all that stuff is a positive step. It's so big and it's so dysfunctional that I just want a divorce from the system. I just want to, get a piece of land. And I think a lot of people want that right now. It's not the only solution, and it's probably not even a good solution because they own all the good land. So we have a quandary, and I'm real curious what your thoughts are.
Well, I think that's part of the game, right? Wasn't it recently that Bill Gates bought up? He's the biggest owner of farmland in the country, right? And it's like, that's weird. Like, why would he be diversifying his portfolio in the food business? That's so bizarre. And not only that, like, take it the next step and, okay, well, how do you control people? Well, through resources, through food, through water, through these types of things, which is what it's been happening for a long time. And I think that this whole, the last couple of years, wink, wink, the medical situation that is as it is accelerating this. It's accelerating these thoughts and these ideas, and in that we need saviors, right? And some of these saviors are, let's say, dishonest, right? Like just at least intellectually dishonest, in that they think. I think, and part of this too is another theme on Troubled Minds is human hubris. It's like we always think because it's us, we have the answer. You know what I mean? Like me in particular, just us as an individual. Like because I'm me, right? I have a greater weight in opinion or thought than anybody else because it's me. Because I know me, I know my intentions. But also Bill Gates does too, right? Like he thinks the same way. Like at least in the sense that he thinks he knows what's best for everybody, right? But he has the power and the resources to implement those ideas. And so once you start becoming locked into this sort of power structure that they're kind of grinding us down with, like you said, there's no good land anymore. I mean, you can find it. I can get land out here in Arizona for pretty cheap, but it's almost uninhabitable. It's hard to find a well out there. You can't get water. It's hard to grow anything, just like you said. And I agree 100% that to agree with you, and I do. Walking away from the system is a beautiful way to protest. Like just check out, just get yourself a plot of land. And if you got to work 10 times as hard just to survive, at least you're surviving on your own merit. Right. And so those opportunities are becoming fewer and farther between, as you described, because people like Bill Gates are buying up all the land. And I don't think it's by accident. I think we find ourselves in a very difficult situation, what the next 15, 20, 30 years might look like. And I don't know. I try to be positive about these things because I think in general terms, if we got ourselves here, I truly believe human ingenuity can get us out. We just have to understand the problem first. And I think that's part of the entire obfuscation of the entire media, the disinformation, the billionaires trying to do whatever they're doing to manipulate whatever they're trying to manipulate. And you got to remember, you guys know this. Once you think about just the human condition and the things we need, the hierarchy of need, that whole what is it? I can't remember the guy's name, but he does that pyramid of the hierarchy of need, right? And it just means that once you've got the things you need, shelter, food, these types of things and you're fine, right? Then you start to think in terms of things. And then once you're so rich at some point, all that stuff goes by the wayside because you can have whatever you want whenever you want it. So these guys become non-human in a way, right? They become more hungry for power and less hungry for becoming more human, you see? And so I truly believe that in some sense, let's go back to the aliens for just a sec, that if you hand so much power to a human being, in terms of power and money and all the rest of this, they start to become non-human and they forget what it's like to be you and me and just regular people. And again, you know, sure, maybe they think they have the best of intentions for us, but it's not up to them. It's up to me. It's up to you. Like we deserve to at least make our own mistakes and make our own decisions as part of that. And well, here we are in a conundrum. What do we do next, right?
For sure, yeah. And I guess it begs a question for me is it where you take a regular man and you give him that much power and he's corrupted, or is there a little more credence to psychopathic bloodlines where, you know, Bill Gates' father was tied into this guy and this guy's tied into that guy and that uncle was this guy and born into that, just like I talked to somebody the other week with that television show Yellowstone. It's about the family that owns all this land in Montana, and it's violent, and they'll do anything to protect their land and anything to protect their stuff. If I were born into that family, I'd probably act that way to a point. But I think some of the psychopathy that we're seeing, when you say they're not human or they become not human, I wonder if they don't start out not human and work their way through systems in order to get to the top, step on anybody, you know, do whatever it takes to get there, and then start exercising their power. If that's the case, I kind of think the death penalty for psychopathy is probably an okay thing for us to start considering as a society because it does so much damage.
Ooh, I'm less, well, I don't know. Maybe let's say
that was a little flippant on my part. I don't really mean to kill everybody.
No, there's a little hyperbole, I'm sure. But let's say that I can disagree in that manner and just say that I think that's the justice system needs to change. Let's say that. I think I can say that probably accurately and dodge your statement there. Because no, I'm going to disagree with you for just a moment here.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. But what do you think of it? These people are just pure psychopaths and have no regard for other humans. And it's not that they maybe think they're doing the best for us. They just don't care. They just do not care. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, and I think that's part of it too. Like how very much like us, right? Like how do you make value judgments on people you don't know, right? Like if you look at the media now, a lot of that's going around with the flinging poo at each other and making accusations and, you know, the racism stuff. And, you know, and again, and I hate to say this, you hate to have to clarify every time you bring up the racism, right? I don't like racism. I think it's horrific. I think it's just one of the dumbest things that's ever happened to humanity. It's ignorant and in so many ways. But they've weaponized it, right? Politically, they've weaponized it. And if you don't agree with people politically, they can point at you and go, I knew it. He's a racist. And it's like, wait, what? No, I disagreed with what you said over here. It has nothing to do with that. And they're like, I knew it. You're a racist. And it's unfortunate, let's say. It's extremely unfortunate. And I think I said this the other night on Troubled Minds as well, that it's when you do that, you're actually not helping racism at all. You're hurting it. The idea that people should not flippantly discriminate against each other for no damn good reason by weaponizing it and using it as a political tool, a political cudgel, you are now becoming more draconian than any racist, right? Because of these movements. And so you see how things get conflated, and then to speak out against it and say, no, hold on, that's not what's happening here. Like, listen to me. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. They've already got you, right? The whole thing is a big gaslighting operation, and it's divide and conquer, and it's division, just like we said. But where do we go? I think so. To bring it up in interesting terms, like you said, how do we combat somebody like Bill Gates or George Soros? How do we combat somebody like Oprah Winfrey, or right, you name it, like whatever billionaires out there, you know, doing their billionaire thing, their humanitarian stuff that they call us, that they tell us they're doing, right? I don't know. Like I'm not of the class warfare type where I'm like, yeah, tax the hell out of them, because, well, of course they have the means to just go offshore and dodge the taxes in Ireland or wherever the hell they can do that. So, well, that tax burden falls on you and me. And I don't think that's fair to us, right? So I don't know. I don't think there's an easy answer, because they've already amassed so much power, Zuckerberg in particular, right? And that dude, that guy may be non-human, right? I mean, let's be real. Like, I think maybe he never was. And to go back to what you said too regarding the bloodlines and things like this, I think it's interesting that we're all born naked. We're all born with nothing. We're defenseless, and we all come from that place. And so, how quickly we surpass that hierarchy of need and enter into the sociopathic landscape, I think is right. That's what you're talking about here. From my perspective, is that surely if you're born into a billionaire family, you will never have a concept of what struggle even means. Maybe mental health, but like actually having to maybe work 3 jobs to make ends meet and barely put food on the table type thing. Like, you'll have no concept ever of what a real struggle to survive means. And even homelessness and all kinds of, like, there's so many other parts of the human condition that you're sheltered from. And so, again, we're all born naked with nothing. And we're all vulnerable, screaming and, peeing on the nurses if we're doing it right. And, well, that's just the way it goes. But where do you go from there? I think that's it. So I'm less sure about the bloodlines and just more into we all start somewhere, and the journey is the journey, the human journey. And where do we go? Right. For me and you, right. I'm assuming you're not a billionaire. I'm not, right. Like, I've had to work my ass off just to survive most of my life, even up to now. Right. Like, things are, as you get older and you've done things right, maybe, right, you can ease off the gas pedal a little bit, but it never stops. It never stops. The hamster wheel never stops, right? Just to survive, just to have a cold one and a warm shower, like I always say. It's not as easy as it sounds. And you guys know this. I'm not telling anybody anything you don't know. But there's the 2 differences in, like you described, the bloodlines. But I think it's just they skip the part of being human, the struggle. They skip the struggle. And so I think that those bloodlines can be just from power. They stem from power. And of course, right? So you have generations that are doing this, just kind of skipping the human struggle part. And what do you get? An entire family of sociopaths, right? At best.
Yeah. And you're right. On a good day, they're the sociopaths. Well, and 2 things that I got from that. I do agree with you. If everything's an emergency, then nothing's an emergency. So if everybody's a racist, then nobody's a racist, and you're shooting your own self in the foot. Is people could come to me and claim that and I did have a guy, and I'm trying to remember exactly where. Oh, it was at my job. I'm a security director at a speedway, and our racetrack is like internationally known, and it's in the big Mile High Nationals for racing cars and stuff. It's not as new as Vegas's drag strip, but it's better, just for the record.
Nice.
And I had a conflict with a couple of people, and I was solving it based on company policy, common sense, and safety. And I was called a racist by Hispanic people and Mexican people in Colorado. And I said, look, dude, my mom's maiden name is Saavedra. I'm a quarter Spanish, so I really don't appreciate you assuming I'm being racist. You're breaking the rules. It's got nothing to do with the color of my skin. And if you're going to have that attitude, we're going to ask you to leave. Fortunately, I'm in a position of authority over there, so I could do that. But it completely diffused it and dialed everything back. He's like, man, I'm just upset and I don't want to move my car. I'm like, I get it. It's fine. But before you go throwing around words that you don't know anything about, you probably should be careful. And one of the best things about my job is I can talk to adults like they're children, and then they feel and act like children, and it's awesome.
And some of them deserve it. I'm certain of it.
Yes, unfortunately they do. Yeah. And the other thing that I really got from what you were saying is it sounds like you go by the worldview that we're all pretty well born equal in this place. We're all born naked. We all have the same kind of journey and stuff. And I guess my brain was taught that psychopathy is like 3 to 5% of the population. And there's a difference in the brain chemistry. And forgive me, this is going to not be politically correct at all, but I read a study back in the early 90s when I was in college where homosexuality, there's a difference in brain chemistry in a certain part of the brain. And they weren't blaming it or anything, but it was that nature versus nurture conversation. And at the time it was fine. And then the other point that you really tripped in my brain again was back to the racism thing. I thought we had it solved with the Cosby Show, and America was like, oh yeah, we're all the same. We're good. It's no problem. And then 2008, they insert this other guy and it all boiled right back up. I mean, that was my experience of it. I also grew up in Colorado, so, pretty diverse and didn't really have a lot of race problems. So I don't know, but.
Yeah. Just on that. So you said it right. That, same here, right? Like, look at me and make your value judgment, right? Like, what am I? Like race wise, right? Like, how would you define me? And the whole point of why I think this is a losing battle politically, again, like I said, nobody wants to be discriminated against, and there's a lot here, but okay. But like you said, right? I also am a quarter Hispanic. Okay. And so we have all these mixed blood people, right? And it's becoming more and more prevalent that it's no longer about what the color of your skin is. It's the perception of what you are politically, racially, right? It doesn't even matter what you actually are. It doesn't matter what you've actually been through. It's about what they want to tell you about yourself, right? Like, and that's the whole point, like I said, by weaponizing it. And then also, just to clarify on the everybody's born naked, after that, clearly things change, right? Some people have, I was lucky, right? I was lucky, and I will never deny this. I was extremely lucky with how things were. We didn't have much, but we had what we needed. All right. And that's the most important thing. And I didn't know it then when I was little. We were telling a story the other night on Discord talking about how many G.I. Joe figures I had when I was a kid. And I was so traumatized that all my friends had more and things like this. But it's so incredibly stupid, but we're children. We're learning that those things, the shiny object on TV is not what matters anyway. And so for me, like I said, I'm extremely fortunate that we had enough. I was not abused in any way. My parents were both kind to me. I am more privileged than most, but it's circumstance. It has nothing to do with this, right? Like, it could have been, if I was born to the next door neighbors, it could have been that much different, plus or minus, who knows? But that's the thing. So I just want to clarify, when in the moment we're born, we're all the same ish, right? That's what I mean. Ish. Chemically, brains, we're all going to be different, of course, a little bit, because it was more of a metaphorical statement, right? We're born with nothing, and the experience that we gain is from that point to the end, right? That's what I meant. So I just want to clarify again, because people, right? People get the wrong idea when you say these things. No, I don't believe everybody's equal in the sense of that, because it's not. It's not. Let's look around. Equal in the sense of, that we want to be treated for the character of our content above anything else, or of our what I say, content for a character. See what I meant? See what I did there? The YouTubers, we want to be treated by the level of great content we put out. No, I'm just kidding. But you see, you know what I mean? I reversed it, but yeah, right. No, the other way. But right. But what I'm saying is that it's complicated. It's not so easy. It's not an easy game. And I think that's part of the problem. I was saying this the other night on Troubled Minds as well. We're not born with how to be a human handbook, and if you could sit somebody down and break it down for them in 10 minutes, right, and have it locked in of, here's what you should do for the rest of your life, well, it would be easy, wouldn't it? But we like to break rules. We like to push boundaries. We like to make mistakes, right? Especially as young people. It's part of how you learn not to make those mistakes when you get older. So anyway, just off that, to clarify, I was probably long and winded and rambly like usual, but I just want to clarify some things, that just because I say we're born the same doesn't mean we're the same. All right. Doesn't mean we're kind of locked into the same circumstance, because again, people weaponize statements against you when you aren't fully, when you don't fully flesh it out. Right. So I just want to make sure that clarify. There we go. So for all the haters out there, book it. Go ahead. Play the second clip in its entirety. Don't cut off the first thing I said. Add the last thing I said. Anyway, there you go. I don't have a ton of haters, but just saying.
I'm glad you clarified, only from the aspect that it helps my mind follow your train of thought. So the clarification, yeah, I was blessed too. I had a single mom until I was 11, but she worked her ass off to provide for my sister and myself. My grandmother helped tremendously. We never didn't have shoes. We never didn't have food. The heat didn't get turned off in the wintertime. I was lucky. And it's funny, you mentioned that. I was talking to a friend on the phone last week. She was having some struggles with a relationship, we got into childhoods and how people sometimes just get the wrong impression of what love is and how to treat each other and on and on. And I told her that, and she's like, you're luckier than most. And I said, I damn straight am. And I am super grateful. And I have been since my early 20s when I thought I was going to lose my stepdad to a car accident. And so, I mean, amen. And blessed is, you can be grateful to creator or circumstance or whatever people think. People hear you say that and they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. But it's true. And so I get where you're coming from on that. I really do.
True. And so on Troubled Minds, we talk about living in the upside down and how everything seems to be literally inverted. That, it's very much like 1984. They say the Ministry of Truth, but really what the Ministry of Truth was in Orwell's 1984 is manufactured lies and destroying the truth. And so very much like, the Patriot Act, they say, the Patriot Act. It's like, wait, that was one of the most like invasive things ever put through our constitutional process ever, right? Like, but they call it the Patriot Act. So if you denounce it or say it was a disaster or whatever, you're not a patriot. And literally all of these things are done intentionally. It's weaponized. Back to that weaponizing speech, weaponizing ideas and the thoughts we have. If you're like, wait, no, I think more surveillance is bad. I knew it. You're not a patriot, right? I knew it. You're not a patriot. And it's like, no, that's not what I said, right? But again, it's easy to boil it down, that whole straw man argument and the rest of that. There was something else I had to say too regarding what was it? It'll come to me. I don't know. It'll come back to me in a second. But
it will, and when it will, it'll jump right in. But the Smith Modernization Act, same thing. The Futures and Commodities Modernization Act, which directly led to the '08 housing crisis signed by Bill Clinton. You can go through these things. The Administrative Procedures Act in the Constitution. I'm a big, political kind of dig into that history stuff. But in the upside down, I kind of think it's been there, somewhere between 1863 and the early 1900s. And each generation did not inform their children or didn't understand it well enough, because the Federal Reserve Act was one of the biggest nails in the Republic, biggest to kill us and take away our right to coin money and make us enslaved on a financial system forever, literally forever, because we can't seem to get rid of the bastards. And the people that stood against and there were plenty from my reading of history, they protested, they called their senators, they couldn't reverse it. That generation didn't educate the one behind them enough. They died off. You're 2 generations away from completely changing any given society, maybe even one generation, depending. I think now you can probably do it in one generation with the speed of technology, because we know attention spans have dropped off. We know that memories have dropped off. It's funny that, and not funny, I don't want to belabor this point too much, but we were at work the other day and they were talking, somebody got a new iPhone 13 or some nonsense, and they had to program all their phones because Apple couldn't do it. And they had to sit there phone by phone. And they said, well, Mike, how come you don't, to this day, still have a smartphone? And I said, because I know better. I want to exercise my brain. I want to remember the phone numbers. I've got the Nokia that was $50 that I bought from their website. It's a 4G because my BlackBerry is 3G and they're shutting that signal off. So
yeah, right. That's hilarious.
With that speed of technology, they can memory wipe society it may not even take 20 years anymore.
It's happening. We're watching it. Back to my point I remembered. So you brought up the fact that, you're grateful and blessed. And so part of that upside down, and why I brought up George Orwell's Ministry of Truth, the Patriot Act, how everything's inverted. It's the same thing with Thanksgiving, right? And so meaning, I was saying this the last couple of days. It's like, why do we need a day to remind us to be grateful or thankful when literally every single day we should be for what we have? And again, like I said, I consider myself blessed, like you said, grateful for the things I have, even if it's not a lot. Those things don't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. But the point is very much part of the inversion of that upside down is that, well, here's your day, guys. Here's your day off. You get a paid day, go spend it with your family. But shouldn't we be doing that all the time? Shouldn't we be spending time with our family all the damn time and being grateful for the time we have with them? Like, part of the problem too is with all of that is you have the younger generation that they don't know loss like we do. Right? They don't have parents that have passed on. They don't have uncles and aunts. They don't have friends that maybe have passed away. They don't have those things yet. Some do, of course. Again, blanket statements, I don't like making them, but by and large, that's more true because they just don't have years accumulated life-wise to have those experiences, have terrible things happen, right? And so they see the world in a completely different way. Rose-colored goggles, as it were. Ignorance is bliss. I don't know, whatever you think, whatever you want to call that. But again, back to that whole Gen X and us having a responsibility here. I'm with you. We remember what it was like before the internet. And I say this, we have a unique place in history because we have 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the new world. And that is a pre-digital age and a digital age. And part of that is what we're doing. Part of what you're doing it on your channel, I'm doing on my channel. We do it in different ways, but we're doing the same thing. It's like, hey, look, just look at the world we live in and consider it may not be what you think it is. It's simple, right? It's a simple thing because you've never suffered loss in huge amounts like that, and somebody passing away in your life is huge. Nobody's going to argue with that. But if you've never actually experienced that, the world seems different, doesn't it? It changes after that first like horrifically tragic moment, and you end up anyway. Yada yada. Yeah. So again, back to why we're doing this and the whole reason why. Again, aliens. You're more political than I am, but I'm watching. I'm paying attention. I see what's happening out there, and part of that is, again, just sort of wake up and understand the world is not like you think it is. That's really all. And then you said something else, but see, my brain tails off. I don't know.
It'll come back to you. Hey, since you do aliens, can we see that cool graphic you do for your show?
Yeah, which one?
Any of them.
Any of them. All
hiding
right.
out in the bunker, no, but the ones that move fast and make people look at them.
Oh, I don't have any of those really. How about I got one of those? I got the how about this? I got the webcam with this where you can say hello. Hi. What else do we got?
It's like a door closing.
Oh, yeah, the transition. Here we go.
You go. Look at that.
There you go.
I love that one.
Yeah. Transitions. Good stuff. By the way, you use OBS as well. If you need help doing any of this stuff, I tell everybody this. If you need help with this stuff and you want to make things like this, let me know. I can definitely help you. No sweat. No sweat.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that with the loss thing, that's super important. The other thing that I've noticed, and it's Western culture in general, more in the United States, I think, than anywhere, children and teenagers and young adults are so, what's the right word? Hidden from the reality of death, right? We don't take little kids to funerals. We don't take teenagers to funerals when we have adults who die. We don't have conversations about them. Most of us teenage boys who were Gen X had BB guns and killed things, and we killed birds and felt bad about it and didn't know why we felt bad and didn't know what to do. So we'd miss on purpose after you kill your first one because your friends want you to kill it. And they don't want to kill it any more than you do, but you don't have an adult there to coach you through what it is you're experiencing. So I think it's a big, huge mistake to make death such a scary taboo because A, it happens to all of us. And secondly, it happens around us 24/7 in the natural world, in the plant world, in the animal world, everything. It's a reality of this experience. And so if you're in magical thinking instead of optimism about things, I think that's where I see a lot of millennials and maybe Gen Zers, but they don't know how to be optimistic from a logical, rational, we have the tools, we've got the brain power, we can figure this thing out. They have magical thinking to where the savior's coming along, or if they use their app and they can meet this person and that'll be the love of their life and all these different things. And I think we're at an amazing time in history to where it appears the people in charge of this system and the billionaires you spoke of want to have us in a completely digital realm. And the human part of us, which is why I think they're all freaking psychopaths. The human part of us wants the analog experience. They want to sit around the campfire and not have a picture of a campfire on your smartphone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The Yule log. You put on the Yule log on TV during the holidays, and you got the, instead of the real fireplace, you got the TV. Right. It gives you that warm feeling in your soul.
That was the cathode ray tube.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what gave you the warm feeling in your soul.
Right. It was exactly, which should be removed from all homes, by the way.
For young people, for young people that don't know that, the TVs we used to have were deadly and emitted so much radiation that it's amazing. The lead paint and the TVs didn't kill us. But go ahead, you had a thought.
No, I lost my thought. Whatever it was. I don't know. I don't know. Let's carry on.
Yeah,
this is the problem with me. I have 7 thoughts all at the same time, and I try and say them all at once, and then I go. So we'll just let the other thoughts go by the wayside for the moment. They'll come back at some point.
Well, and I think that's why that analog escape society is so inviting to so many people. And then you see someone like Owen Benjamin, who, granted, had won a big settlement, had a bunch of money, so he could go buy a place and go make his little bear thing and start a movement. But I think that desire for the authentic human experience that we had as kids and young adults growing up, a lot of the kids now don't have that at all, and it scares the shit out of me, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's that whole digital native thing, right? Like they don't understand, like, and I think here, and again, a clarification, and I know you believe this as well, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that when you talk about, let's say, a younger generation or an older generation, in my opinion, it's not about maligning them, because it's the same thing we don't like done to us. It's back to that whole same thing. So I just want to clarify to people listening that, well, just because a younger generation may be struggling with the technology and not understanding what's happening, it doesn't mean there aren't brilliant people in that generation that do. So I think what's happening with the technology here is a double-edged sword in the sense that we're more connected than ever. All right. But then, of course, it makes us more susceptible to the gaslighting, to peer pressure, like you said about the BB guns. I had a very similar instance, by the way. I shot a chipmunk once when I was 10, maybe. It screamed bloody murder. It screamed and ran away.
Oh, shit.
It changed me forever. Right. It's like in that moment. Yeah. I was just like, wow, that is horrific. Well, never did it again. Never just went and shot an animal for kicks, ever. Because I was like, no, that's enough. That's enough for me, right? Like, it's not, but there was nobody there. I was out there by myself with my little brother, right? It was one of those situations where, like you said, if I had a group of kids around me going, yeah, do it again, maybe I would have, So I think those moments, I don't know, like I kind of left aside from that peer pressure, that digital momentum, that whatever you want to call it, all the eyes on you, the surveillance all the time. I think that moment by yourself of introspection is valuable, and we're losing it because of this, because of all of these things. Like I said, we're more interconnected than ever, but we're losing that moment of introspection that we may have had without cameras on us all the time. And so now we're all turning into this bizarre version of like the Truman Show, like some reality TV show. Like everybody thinks they're all a damn movie star now. And it's like, really? Like you still bleed like me, you're still going to die at some point like me. Like again, we have more in common than we think. And the more connected than ever, but also more peer pressure than ever, more reality TV show based. People think doing stupid things. I mean, not to say we didn't do stupid things when we were young, right? That older generations didn't do stupid things. Clearly we did. Clearly, obviously. But I'm saying that when you have so much pressure on you and that peer pressure to do more things, next, better, faster, get more YouTube hits, get more clicks, impress your friends, get in a shopping cart and roll off the roof onto the freeway, whatever, right? For clicks, for attention, and it's so easy. It can happen, right? You can put up a video and tomorrow you could have 1 million views, right? Like it's easy. It's easier than ever to become an idiot celebrity, right? Easier than ever, right? I mean, that's where we're at. And it's unfortunate. It's because we end up chasing that, right? We end up sort of chasing that high, that acceptance, that Anyway.
No,
Yeah,
for
15
sure.
minutes.
For sure. Yeah, I can see that, I'm very positive on the millennials because they do have a more open-minded approach to the world. They're not nearly as dogmatic as our generation, or the boomers before us. And people like to harp on boomers, but I'll tell you what, when they were raised by a generation that went through the Depression, and those people didn't eat and they didn't have shoes, and so when they made a little bit of money and they wanted to give their kids too much, I totally understand it, and I begrudge nobody anything. And I think the generational breakdown is only important from the aspect as society changes, you're a product of your environment to a large degree, unless you're on the spectrum or something else is going on. The vast majority of us are a product of our environment, and our environment from roughly 1965 to 1985 had a lot of continuity. So you meet a Gen Xer and you start talking about a few things and you just tick every box of what you guys have in common. And that's the only reason I think generations are even worth a shit.
Yeah. It's again, excuse me, cough button. It's arbitrary. It's one of those things, right? Like, again, it's drawing lines. And I think it's only valuable in some cases, right? Otherwise, I think most times they use it against us. So I just
more division, more control, which
More control.
we're pretty susceptible to it. I think. I mean, we're probably the most naive and intelligent, potentially intelligent creator. But I don't know if you ever read the works of Carlos Castaneda. Really cool book series about a Mexican shaman that changed his life and shaped his world. And they're in this conversation about what's causing the mind of man to be captured and act the way we do. And his teacher says, well, now just consider the man as the engineer and all of the amazing things they do. And then look at man and the stupidity of his belief systems and tell me that there's not something else going on. And they get into this long conversation about what could be going on and all that stuff, and that's debatable, and you can't prove any of it. So pick your poison, pick the Illuminati, pick whatever you want to pick, and say this is why we are where we are. The fact that we're here now and we can have conversations and we can see the same thing from different angles, and we can the upside down for sure. I mean, I feel at this point 95% of what I was taught is a complete fabrication, a complete lie, just designed to control my energy, my spiritual energy, turn it into money and let somebody else take it from me. So when we're at this point in our development, I think we do have a really good chance to sort this out before it gets too foobarred,
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's only understanding what's happening. Like once you understand what's actually happening around us, and like I said, I always say this, I don't have the answers. I promise you I do not. I absolutely do not. So anything I ever say, don't take as gospel in any situation whatsoever. Apply it to yourself, apply it to what you already know, and think about it. That's all I ask you. Think about it. Give it a minute and consider it as possible, because I think that's what it's about. It's about considering all of those possibilities, because they're happening. We're being manipulated. There is a deep state agenda. I mean, look at Fauci, for instance. We don't have to get into that stuff, but that dude has been failure after failure after failure for like 30 plus years, and he's still there. And he's outlasted every president before and since, and he's going to outlast this president until that man wants to retire. And he's part of the deep state. For real, 100%. And so that exists. The Pentagon, the DOD, that stuff exists. We were just talking about this the other night on Troubled Minds about how UFO disclosure, like what are these things flying around? And do you think any level of pressure, activism, as it were, would bring about actual disclosure from the Pentagon, the DOD, from any of this stuff? And to me, the answer is no. Emphatically, absolutely not, because it's all power. Information is power. If it's literally one of the largest questions. If this is real, if aliens are a real thing, if the UFOs are a real thing, this whole phenomenon is real, then it is one of the most pressing questions in history, in human history, period. However, right, because that's the case, we'll never know. They're not going to let us, not willingly, right? And so it's all power. It's all pinning things down and keeping it from us, because, well, the more we know, the more powerful we are together. And they don't want that. They don't want that. Again, they don't want me and you talking. They don't want it. They want you to think, you're different than me because of this or that, or religious or that, or the other thing, or whatever. They want us to hate each other. And no, I will not comply. I will not hate somebody because you tell me to hate somebody. Sorry. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Cthulhu, come out of a portal and you tell me to hate somebody. Well, me and you, Cthulhu, we got a problem. All right. That's it. That's it. Right. Stand me up to the gates of hell and I won't back down. Right. No, but I'm not going to do it. You cannot convince me I should hate somebody because you tell me so. I don't care who you are.
No, and I think that's as valid as it gets, and that's clear thinking about who you are as a human being in relationship to the other humans out here. I had a conversation at work with a guy, and a smart guy. He's like 60-ish. I don't know how old he is, but he's older than me. And we were talking about the divide and society and money and where this thing's going. And from last March, he and I were both saying, this looks bad, and it looks like it's going to get way worse. And we got to mentally be ready, spiritually be ready, all the stuff. And then we kind of got on the thing about abortion. And I said, you know what? Because I don't have a uterus, it's not really a big topic of mine. But I think as a species in and of ourselves, if you saw snakes going around and killing all the snake eggs, you think, what the fuck is wrong with that snake? He's killing his own kind. So, I mean, I try to look at it. I try to use nature as my teacher as best I can, because I know the line, what does it say? Schultz and Easton said, the line between good and evil cuts through the heart of all men. I don't know their motives. Yeah. I don't know their motives when they tell me these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to think of it too. Like, I found this, let's say valuable for me, kind of informative growing up, as I would listen to, again, I grew up in California, very diverse place. And so you could go to lunch anywhere and sit down and be eating in just like you can't do anymore, but among other people. But you would hear other families sitting around you speaking, and they'd be speaking in other languages, right? They'd be speaking in some Persian maybe, or they'd be speaking in Russian or whatever, right? And so it was always like an interesting exercise for me to kind of take myself out of my human out of the human state for a moment, the best I could, and then watch them, not understanding a word they said. I speak a little Spanish, so that's not fair because I could cheat on those conversations. But like, let's say Russian, for instance, I wouldn't understand a single word they said, but kind of watching the body language and the inflection and all the things, right? And it kind of sort of gave me what aliens might think when they see us, right? Sort of like kind of look at what we are for what we are. And right. And then apply that to myself. I'm no different. Like I would be the same thing if you didn't understand a word I was saying. You just heard sounds coming out of my mouth and my arms waving around. Right. Like it seems without value to that language, right? Without words have meaning, without all of that stuff, it does make us seem like aliens, right? Sort of in a lot of ways. But back to your point there about abortion, if aliens came and looked at us and saw that, right? Like, well, they might think, like you just said, like, what is going on here? Like I saw this meme the other day, which is funny as hell. That the aliens are on a ship in this cartoon and they're talking to each other, and one of them's like, all right, last week they were lobotomizing pumpkins and this week they're stuffing bread up a turkey's ass. We're out of here, guys. These guys are insane, right? So they're taking off, and there you go, right? So it's sort of a similar thing, right? I think it's a good exercise if you can maybe look at the people around you as not people for just a second. I don't mean to be a sociopath. I mean to actually do it in the sense that that's you also, right? Like all the biases and things that are built in and all this, like look at other people that are different than you and be able to process that, well, that's really me after all. It's just their perspective of me would be very similar. And that's okay, right? It's okay. All that is okay. It's just about, the whole being challenged by it, being intimidated by it. It's not necessary, but we find ourselves maybe in those spots sometimes as people. Again, the human experience, right? We're not perfect. Like, show me the perfect person and I will eschew Cthulhu for whatever is next. I'm just kidding, because a perfect person doesn't exist, obviously, clearly. So yeah. Anyway, but point being, I found it fascinating, even when I was young, to have those foreign language conversations happening around me. And in Vegas, by the way, it's fantastic too. If you go down to the Strip and just hang out, all of that, man, all of that, you get all these different cultures. just like you go into like the Bellagio hotel and just hang out in a lobby or in the casino, and you get languages like crazy. It's wild, man. It's wild. I think it's good. I think, diversity is a good thing. All that stuff is a good thing. And back to, like I said, we just have to understand that even though we're different, we're also more the same. And there you go. There you go. What's up, guys? I see you in the chat. How's everybody?
Totally true. If you want to, can you read the chat?
Yeah. I got it up in the thing here.
Oh, good. If you want to, do me a favor. Shout out all the chat for a moment. You don't have to do it right this second, but
Ken, Brenda, Wick on fire. What's up, Floyd? Chappelle. We got Zen Wen, Young Love. What's up? 5579 Ancient Trees. What's going on, guys? There you go. That's on my screen. I can scroll up, but there's a lot of chat. There you go.
No, that's perfect. But I think what you're explaining, the way you perceived that was not. It didn't strike me as psychopath at all. It's more of the saying from Australia or wherever Max Egan got it. He says in Lakesh at the end of every video, and basically it means I am another yourself. And when you can step out of being Michael for a moment, and you're watching a family, and you can see that look on mom's face, and she is ripping that kid, you know exactly what that child feels like. And it doesn't matter what language your mom yells at you or says she's disappointed in you in, what that does to the up here and up here. So, I mean, I think that's super powerful, and that's a great way to navigate the understanding that we're not really different. And there's so much more sames than differences between people who aren't billionaires and people who are, right?
Yes, 100%, 100%. And that's why the distinction needs to be made on, right, once again, the sovereignty of our own mind. I think that's the most critical thing here of all of it, of troubled minds, of everything. Like you said before we started, you said, if you got anything you're passionate about to talk about, that's it. That's it. Like literally the thought police, right? Like wrong think. Able to make our own mistakes, like things like this, right? As long as we're not hurting anybody, what's the big deal if we make our own mistakes, right? That's the whole point. Isn't that the whole point of growing? Like Jennifer and I were talking about this when she called in the other day. I know she was on your show not too long ago, so Jennifer, but she called in and was talking about this exact thing. And I equated it to Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, right? What the 12 Trials of Hercules, Luke Skywalker, and all this anthropological stuff, that all of the mythology in human history follows a cycle. And it's all based on us starting from nowhere, going through challenges and becoming something somewhere, right? And it doesn't matter like fill in the blanks or the details, but in between the nowhere and the somewhere, there's a whole lot of mistakes that are made. And we need that. We have to have that, because otherwise the somewhere becomes unattainable. We're stuck in the nowhere without those mistakes. We're told what to do all the time. We're told how to react. We're told what to think when this happens. No. Like, again, tell me to hate somebody and you and me have a problem, right? Not who you're telling me to hate. That's one of the worst things to me. I can't stand it. Like, let me influence your thought on this person. No, why don't you let me do that myself when I meet that person? Like, why are we going to do that? Like, so a hater will say, let me tell you about this person. And I'll go, I don't need to know anything about that, but now I already know about you. I know about you, right? You volunteered it. I didn't even ask, but you told me that you want to talk mess about somebody else for absolutely no reason whatsoever than to start drama. Then I already know about you, right? I'll make up my own mind about them. And you see, right? But human drama, man, whatever. I'm sure I had a point, but I lost it 6 ways.
No, I think it was, pardon me, I think it was super clear for me, when you talked about trying and failing and, not doing it right and all that stuff. People always talk about human growth, but I look at it as you can't become emotionally mature if you haven't had those things. So I see this with adults, and they got stuck at like a certain emotional development stage, then they never really progressed. And my own personal opinion from our conversation tonight is they were insulated from that failure point, or when there was a time in my life, pardon me, I was 2 months behind on my mortgage. I was unemployed. I had gone through a messy breakup. And I'm sitting there one day, and for the month, I just kind of sat on my ass and watched my money go away. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, so nobody's going to save you. Do you want to be homeless, or do you want to call the bank, get a job, keep the place. And I wanted to get a job, keep the place, and not be homeless. But if I hadn't been able to crash my bike because I tried to build my forks longer and I didn't do it right, and I got a big scar from whatever. If I didn't have those experiences, I wouldn't have emotionally matured. And I think the people who are in media right now, and you could name off the shows on the blue team and the red team, they're a bunch of emotional adolescents. And unfortunately, they're kind of running the narrative all over society right now.
Yeah. Sociopaths. And some of them just don't know better. Like somebody in the chat there says, Rebel TV says most adults are still teenagers. And that's kind of it, right? They never progress past that. And a lot of these people, like we talked about, we're all born the same. And in the moment of birth, back to that statement I made, again, all the clarifications, rewind if you missed that. But then we learn all that sheltering that you just described. Some of us are sheltered. I know people that have, only children, right? Not to malign an entire thing, but they get sheltered to by and large a different degree than 5 kids would, right? Those 5 kids are kind of running around making mistakes and slamming into each other and just doing dumb things. But then that only child gets all of the attention, and all of that attention could be good, but it also could be bad because again, right, we're insulating that child from making their own mistakes, and that in itself is a large mistake. They have to be able to. How else do you grow? You got to do it. How do you know not to put your hand on the stove until you do it once, right? That's it. That's as simple as that. It's a allegory, but it fits pretty much across the board, high and low. Yeah, 100%, man.
True story. So, of the topics you generally cover on your show, what's your favorite?
Ooh. I kind of like the philosophy stuff. I kind of like the nature of the universe stuff, nature of reality. It's kind of, the show's kind of coming into its own recently because of that. Like I'm starting to realize that when you do things, when you put energy out there, I think the most probably, what's the word? The most authentic thing is the thing that interests you the most, right? And so for me, I've always loved huge topics like, for instance, right, string theory, the quantum universe, right? Right? Do we live in a simulation? Like literally those big concepts of where we are in the universe as people, as human beings, right? And is it possible, like, many of you probably heard this, as Elon Musk has said, look at VR, right? He was talking about this 5 years ago. And if VR is clearly on the rise, which we've talked about often recently with the metaverse, I'm sure you've touched on that as well, because it's wild. But if that's the case, and that becomes a new reality, are we ourselves in a base reality at all anyway? Or are we somebody else's metaverse, right? As like non-player characters in their video game. Like we're all programmed somehow, some way to be how we are, right? Who knows? And so those thoughts are incredible to me because it makes you feel insignificant, but it also makes you feel, right, that you want to battle against that insignificance. And I always say this, and it's only halfway a joke, but I say my ego is as big as the sun, right? And well, because my ego doesn't like considering insignificance of myself, my efforts, right? All the things I've done in my life, all the things I will do in my life. It doesn't like it, right? But it doesn't matter because my ego is insignificant into what's really happening, right? So it's amazing. It's kind of paring down those human roadblocks, and ego is one of them. My God, ego is one of those things that's just instead of people considering they may be wrong, they just fight on the internet. They fling poo at each other. You know what I mean? It's like, well, listen, listen, consider that you may be wrong. Like it's unbelievable to me that we've got generations of people who are all correct. I mean, mathematically, let's see, carry the 4. It doesn't add up. No, it doesn't add up. But so it's, to me, it becomes less about what the real truth is and what the possibilities of truth could be. That's probably my favorite, kind of like the navel gazing stuff. I like to make fun of myself and really talk about, ghosts as dimensional time shifts, time slips, right? Things like this. You know what I mean? Like, what's really going on? Like, how do we quantify these things? You can go out in history and quantify them in particular ways, but I think as people, we're flawed. Our science is still minuscule compared to what is out there or what could be out there. And so as a result of all that, who even knows? And so I think that's part of it, right? Kind of taking reality as like a sandbox thought experiment, you know, and kind of considering that. That's probably my favorite. But then back to what I was saying about like kind of being authentic. It seems to me that the more you do what you're interested in, the more people like it. And I always thought that, well, you know, you guys, this is going to bore you guys to tears, but I'm really into this. I want to talk about this. And it seems to be the opposite. It's like, oh, well, we really love this too. I'm like, oh, well, shit. I guess we're in the right place, aren't we? You know what I mean? It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But yeah, that's probably my favorite. Sort of the really large picture philosophy type stuff about the nature of reality. That's probably my favorite topic.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for that for me is when, depending from where you start on that thought process, really is going to determine a lot of where you go. Generally, if you start from quantum physics and you realize that atoms are 99.9% empty space, and they can kind of prove that to you, then you can look around this whole realm and say, well, if atoms are 99.9% empty space, this place ain't solid. And you can go to electromagnetism, you can go to Mandela effect, you can go a lot of places with that. Generally, you'll wind up as a 3D organic hologram simulation if you start from there. If you start from the natural world and you don't know that science, then you'll go to the sky clock, or you'll go to, you know, the seasons basically, and the growing seasons. And for me, I think all of them are equally valid for the individual who's checking it out. I wonder if it adds to your understanding of yourself or your relationships with other people, then I think it's a great thing. If it causes more division, I think it's a silly thing, and you should be able to set that aside and say, it's okay if you're a heliocentric person. It's okay if you're a geocentric person. That has nothing to do with the conversation I can have with you about the system throwing us overboard long before we were born, and now ratcheting this up to a degree where the people coming behind us may not have any freedom of speech, any freedom of thought, any freedom of movement. So let's get your head out of your globe and pull your ass out of the flat place, and let's kind of work on what seems to be the most pressing issue for the past 23 months. Am I wrong?
No, you're spot on. Spot on. Because there's a lot of insidious stuff happening out there. And I think that's part of it. And not only that, right? I forgot who said this, but it's an old saying, Plato, maybe something like that. It goes back to that day. But it's basically, if you aren't sure who's in control, find out who you can't criticize. And well, that's exactly where we're at. It's like, okay, well, there are certain things we can't say on YouTube. Right? Not even very provocative things, by the way, like just sort of like common sense questions you can't even ask anymore because they'll take your channel down. And so clearly, all right, so who's in charge? It's not me. It's not you. It's not the individual. That's for damn sure. And so the more you think about it and consider all of that, well, we got a problem. We got a 23-month long problem that I predicted, by the way. It's all on tape. Back in January 2020, I said this will never end. This will never end. And I changed my mind a couple times since then, but I've come back firm to what I first said. This will not end because they're going to use it. They're using it. They're using it. And the most horrific thing about it, right? Let's talk about 23 months ago. Well, imagine if something comes back, let's say, not orders of magnitude, but slightly worse than what we just experienced on the virus level, right? Let's say something else happens. Well, we saw what happened with this. So the terrifying thing is what that next step may or may not be. And I say may not because I have to hedge my words because they're listening. But what are those next steps? Because again, right, the lab hypothesis, right? Some of these things. Well, if that's the case, then you got one little tweak in a petri dish, and then send that sucker out for version 2.0, right? And you can lock the whole MFR down forever. right? So anyway, I don't want to get into that. Let's not take your channel down, but just, but I think it's obvious. I think it's these things, like you said, I always call it the elephant in the room. And it is what it is. Like, you can't criticize the powers that be. Back to Fauci for just a sec. Like I said, deep state through and through. You can't fire the man. He's only going to be gone when he retires, right? And it's the optics of him retiring right now are silly. So he's probably going to die in that position, right? Because he's 82 years old or whatever, 80 years old maybe. So point being that, like, these guys get in and they stay forever. It's like a Supreme Court appointment, for crying out loud, which should be amended, by the way. That shouldn't be a life term anyway. That should be like 10, 12, 15, 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, you get like how morbid was that, by the way, just to get on that for a second, with the Ruth Bader Ginsburg death watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was horrible.
That was sick. It was sick. It's like, okay, look, I'm not a fan, but come on. Like, literally, we're going to try and like keep one foot in the grave and her keeping up appearances that she's medically well when she's nowhere close to that. I mean, for political, I mean, yeah, it's disgusting. I mean, not to mention the ghost who haunts the White House, but I mean, things, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, we're so stupid that some of these things are obvious, but they don't want to legislate the obvious problems, right? Because there's always a fight. Because right now somebody's in charge of that Supreme Court and they don't want to relinquish that lead, because of changing a thing. It's the status quo is people are, what would you say? People are the product. People are expendable. People are, as long as politics are involved, the people don't matter. And even a Supreme Court justice, you can see, even the president of the United States.
Absolutely, 100%.
You can see it's the people mill, right? That's the Soylent Green is people. if you remember that old show, which is a fantastic allegory for exactly what we're experiencing, by the way.
Well, yeah, and it's because the system is what's important to politics, not the individual. So I tell you, I'm right there with you. I see that new thing coming out of South Africa, which, when they're front loading it that much for one case in the UK and one case over here, people, my family, they're like, well, why are you not doing some of these things? I said, because I think I see what's coming. And if I'm in the most nimble position I can be in, I've got the best chance to survive. So my roots are not set right now. I'm not, really hedged in that way. But in the conversation, I also said, if you really want to know what's coming, just go look at Australia and look at a couple of other places. And unfortunately, most Americans are so Americentric that they're like, they don't follow different people from other places. And I'm super thankful for the chat here. Just for the record, I've got people from so many countries who come to my channel: Denmark, UK, Australia, Ireland, Scotland. Yeah, it's great because you get a perspective that you're not going to get otherwise. And so I think we know where it seems to be headed. Things can always change, divine intervention, whatever can happen, which is why I'm optimistic. So I don't know. There's no reason to scream fire yet because it's not really on fire. The match is lit and the accelerant's ready, but it's not on fire yet. So I think we still have things we can do as individuals, keep doing what you do on your show. I keep streaming and speak what I think is true. And I have people on that speak, and you have people on that speak their truth. And so I'm starting to lose my train of thought, like you've experienced.
When you think in terms of 7 things at a time, it's hard. You're like, what was that saying? I swear I had a point. Well, I guess we'll just be like, that was the statement. Maybe you can derive the point I was trying to make from the context of where I was headed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Humanity survived a lot of things, right? Ice ages, according to some histories. We've survived wars that have killed 10 and 12 million people, 20 million people, 40 million people. We've survived a lot of stuff, and we will continue to survive. Will we all wind up in a Hunger Games type society? Maybe, maybe not. But even within that Hunger Games story, that human experience and that human desire for freedom is still going to exist. So if things go sideways and people like me and people like Michael get thrown by the wayside and we're locked away in places, don't give up, because there'll be a spark in a child. There'll be a spark in someone else. Humanity's going to make it through this. It's just probably going to be kind of ugly for a while.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so I always say too, regarding, doing the YouTube thing and, being a quote personality or whatever the hell you want to call whatever we're doing. Right. In the old days and, let's say the 1700s or whatever, we would be the ones, writing articles and putting them on printing presses and, delivering things to people's doors. The medium changes, but the vision and the idea of an independent thinker does not. It's I cite this from time to time on Troubled Minds, and Princess Leia tells Darth Vader, that the tighter you squeeze your grip, the more star systems will slip through your fingers, right? And it's the damn truth. Like, people start to realize it, how draconian things are becoming, and they reject it. And I think that's part of the advantage of at least having a collective of people that can still think for themselves, is we get that effect. More and more people are going to leave YouTube. More and more people are going to go to different places to find their information. A lot of people have already just turned off TV and are never going back. Things like this, right? Understanding it's all propaganda sources anyway. So yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna step away. Can you give me like 10 seconds? I've got a dog that's chewing up the carpet over here.
Take as much time as you need. You can take a break. You can grab a drink, whatever you need, man. I'll shout out the chat for a while. Okay,
I will be right back. Going to put this dog away because she literally found a spot on the carpet she loves and she's destroying it.
Nice. Thanks, dog. Love you.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds good. So King Claudio's here, Jack the Giant Slayer, Terminal Arc. I like Terminal Arc. That's a cool name. Brenda Mitchell's here. Curious Bunny. Hi, Penny. Jay Milsner. Nice to see you. Wick on Fire. Super Champion Rocker was here earlier. I don't see him in chat right now, but I like Super Champion Rocker. He's in Colorado Springs. Ancient Trees is here. Rebel TV. Nice to see you. Yeah, his dog is glitching like that guy that walked into the courtroom from the kid in the place and his leg went through the floor. Did you guys see that crazy stuff? I might have to show Michael that and see if he saw that. Jennifer Hawkins is here. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you. It was nice having you on the stream before. Buzzacino, always a pleasure. Chappelle, hope you're keeping the baddies out. Zenwen, of course. Matt Chapman. Hi, Matt. Nice to meet you. Mari Cine Helena Kerskonen.
We just call her Lily.
You just call her what?
Lily. What's up, Lily?
Hi, Lily. Is that Lily from Discord?
Yes, Lily from Discord. You got it. Mary
nice.
Cine Helena. Yes, that's Lily. I'm back, by the way.
Richard Diddler, hi, welcome back. They said your dog was glitching out, and I said, yeah, it was like that kid's foot who went through the floor in that trial in that city that they just had. Did you see that?
No. What happened?
I will share this with you. Zulu One, got to say I had a couple more people. But yeah, I'll share you this video clip, and you tell me what you think. I kind of like looking at stuff like this. Doc Michael, got to say hi to Doc Michael. Ronnie Powell, if I missed you, shame on me. I apologize. My guest tonight is making me play a song, so it's all his fault. Not a song, I'm sorry. Mr. Mikey, I did catch a UFO in a video I made, and I didn't even know it was there. Someone else pointed it out to me. So I thought that was pretty neat. Yeah, I was filming at the racetrack, and one of my internet friends, who's way smarter than me, she's like, did you see the UFO? And I'm like, what? And she's like, no, you captured a UFO. So I went back and slowed it down. I didn't do enhancement because I don't have that kind of tech, but I'm like, oh shit, there is something there. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So there, yeah. Last thing I
noticed. The breakdown. Could you see any little green men flying the thing?
I did not. When I looked in the windshield, I couldn't see them. They had the wipers going because it was raining. So.
Oh, that's a shame.
Let's see if this dude's foot didn't just disappear on the Rittenhouse trial. Gone. Plus, the audience isn't hardly moving at all. It looks like a recording on loop. Like they're barely moving. They all look dead. And then I see this dude's foot disappear. Here it is again. That's a green screen, bro. Here's the video slowed down. It looks like there's something blocking his foot. This is all a circus. It's just meant to distract you. You can't believe anything you hear anymore, man.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
That's kind of bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. A lot of those things happen out there too, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Is it that whole right? Is that a glitch in the matrix? Is that some artifact of video and the internet? I don't know, right? Like I don't have those answers, but those things seem to happen from time to time. I don't know. I have no idea. It's pretty wild, though.
More questions than answers, right?
Exactly. And I always say troubled minds is the answer show. Or I see I did that. The question show, not the answer show anyway. So if you're looking for answers, by the way, I'm not your guy. Because the answers guy, by the way, is typically dangerous. Just FYI.
Yes.
Be careful with the individual bearing answers. Definitely a dangerous proposition, right? Sell you some meteor juice lickety split.
We had a good conversation on my channel a little while back about how people are thick and they can't seem to understand, and they can't, family and friends, they're not on board, and you can't reach them. And I say, the only way I've ever influenced anybody's thinking is by asking them questions. That's the only way I've ever done it. And you can see if your questions are directed to their listening for things that the way they see the world. If you know the person pretty well, you have some idea how they see the world, and if you can guide those questions to that listening, you can make a crack, and they'll say, and they may not even do it in front of you, right? They won't go down that thing, but then you'll bump into them 3 months later or 4 months later, or like my stepdad. We go fishing a lot, and he just listened to me ramble about stuff, and then I was over there. And it was January of 2020, and I took them some masks and gloves, and I said, I don't think you need to be worried, but you're going to need these down the road, and they're going to be sold out. And he's like, it's all fake bullshit. And I'm like, what? He's like, no, it's probably a bioweapon or something. And he's in his mid-70s. And so I felt that asking him enough questions about the things in the sky coming out of the planes, and why can you see a half a moon in the daytime if the moon reflects the sun's light? Shouldn't it always be full? And just a couple little things like that. And then he'll go think about stuff and be like, that's interesting. I never thought of that. And people are smart, and they can think for themselves. They just have to be asked the right question. It's like a key that goes in and unlocks something, and then you just walk away and let them do their thing.
Yeah, and again, I think it's the danger is for us is, like I said, I have no illusions of changing the world, but like you said, the spark goes out. You can't destroy an idea. And so the idea is sovereignty of the mind. And even if, right, let's say combined you and I for the rest of our lives, God willing, we keep doing this over a long, long time, and, they don't censor us, and we're able to say lots of things and ask lots of questions, right? Even if, let's say even at our combined best, you and I still have no illusions that we're going to change the world. But that spark goes. The spark goes. And so I've always said this and always thought this, that it doesn't matter, like individually, back to that ego thing a little bit, it doesn't matter, because the spark goes, the spark goes, the spark goes. So if we have a hand, even a tiny bit, in inspiring the person that inspires the person that inspires the person that changes the world, it's good enough for me. Those little sparks count. Words mean something. Intention means something. And I'm with you on that. 100% I'm with you on that. And there's another thing you said, but I was too caught up in that moment to really remember.
That's perfect. Well, and I'll tell you, the spark for me came from someone else as well. The spark for me came from Kurt Vonnegut Jr. and his work in writing, and so forth. The influences and things that, and even parts of the Bible and parts of things my grandmother said when she was alive, and different things. And so it's a human train. It's almost like a thought train that runs through all of humanity. And if it's on the wrong track, it runs really bad. And if it's on the right track, it's better for us overall. I want to try to stay on the right track, and, I don't want to hurt humanity. Because that's me, right?
Yeah. Well, and then the danger for us is that the crackdown is on us, because they don't like us asking questions, right? They don't like it. The powers that be want you to only have the conversation within their allowed paradigm, and we're breaking that. People like us are breaking that, even a little at a time, right? That matrix is cracking and crumbling, and it's brainwash. It's all the same thing. It's the system, And so however you want to think of it, whether it's a religious system, whether it's a, the digital system of an actual matrix, or again, like those things kind of don't matter in the grand scheme of people sort of breaking out of the manufactured reality, right? But I think we do have to be careful as individuals to not chase every rabbit hole as deep as it goes, because I think there is a danger there. I think that if we believe everything we hear, if there's no discernment, if we can't really, again, back to the ego thing, that we think because we found it on the internet, our time investment makes it more true than it may be otherwise, right? It's not a good thing. Like, so the whole conspiracy bit, I understand why people are like freaked out about it, but it's also the way where you break down the paradigm of actual manufactured phony reality, and whatever that means to you, well, here we are. Just from an actual semi-professional conspiracy theorist, be careful how many rabbit holes you chase and how deep you go. That's what I ask of you. Think freely, but please don't chase everything and believe everything you hear, because I think it can lead you to bad places as well.
It can, which makes me want to play something. And if by chance if they block it, I can take it out later. So I'm not real concerned about that. It's going to take me a moment to find it.
Sure.
Because it's spot on with what you're saying. I do also think that as we navigate our own lives, or my personal life, I wouldn't say our lives because we don't, but anyway, as I navigate my personal life, if I learn something that I think is going to help somebody navigate their situation based on the things they've told me or the things they've asked me or whatever, I'm going to share it with them and hope that it's going to be productive for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And again, like, I think the thing is too, like when you bring up a topic, it's the way conversations should go anyway. Like when you're considering the possibility of something, you have to also consider that the possibility it may all just be a bunch of bullshit. And if you can't like start the premise with, okay, this may be wrong, but let's talk about this, well, then there's a problem with the premise, because the premise is, let's talk about reality, the nature of our reality. And this thread we're chasing may be entirely wrong at all, but it doesn't matter because it's mental yoga. Like I say, those thought experiments make you the discernment that much more definite when you go too far down a rabbit hole, because you've already been there. You've been like, nah. I talk about Cthulhu coming out of a portal in church in the metaverse. You ain't going to show me a rabbit hole that I haven't considered yet, right? And so, well, but it doesn't mean I have to believe them all. And so, yeah, for sure, 100%.
Well, and real quick, I'm almost there. Who is this Cthulhu person, and where is he coming from?
Cthulhu see, we have to work this into every show because it's amazing. H.P. Lovecraft is an old horror author. And he wrote a book called Call of Cthulhu, Cthulu. And basically Cthulhu is he's known as an old one, a great old one. And what that means is it's an entity from the primordial universe. So for instance, let's say that just as a scientific example, let's say the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way, Sagittarius A, is actually an entity. This thing's alive. That would sort of be akin to what Cthulhu might be, or these great Lovecraftian old ones, meaning that they were entities that were around pretty much everything, and they persist, and they're worshipped not just here but everywhere. It's one of those things, primordial God. And again, it's if you've never read H.P. Lovecraft, there are so few authors that I read that give me the absolute chills, and that dude, I'm telling you what, if you've never read Lovecraft, get on that shit, because man, like you read a paragraph and a half and you're like, whoa, you feel like you're out there on the void, the icy void, looking for the old ones. But yeah, that's Cthulhu. So that's the joke. The Lovecraftian old one coming through the portal.
Gotcha.
Because why not?
Well, yeah, and sure could be. When that Geordie Rose creep referenced, sorry, creep is my own opinion of him. Let's see, when he referenced H.P. Lovecraft, it like set me, of course, it set my ears up, and I'm like, oh God, if Geordie Rose is talking about him, I don't want anything to do with that. But
consider that's the same thing they're talking about through CERN and some other things, the Department of Energy reaching into other realities. other
Right.
dimensions, to maybe reach out and touch or invite Cthulhu. That's the scary shit right there. If that dude comes through the portal, we're in big trouble. And I think probably scientifically you could say if CERN smashes the things they shouldn't smash and it turns into a runaway vacuum decay and destroys the Earth in an instant, in the snap of a finger, I think that would probably be scientifically bringing Cthulhu through the portal, right? I think that would be it.
Be the equivalent, sure, and we'd never know it anyway, so that's good. But so with CERN and D-Wave and stuff, I'm real skeptical. I have a very skeptical approach at things. When I saw the Goddard Tunnel ritual, for lack of a better word, did you see that with CERN?
Yes, where there was like a knife and like some
floating
young
around
people
on wires and death and all the spooky stuff when they opened the Goddard Tunnel.
No, I think we're talking about something different. I saw like a ritual out in front of CERN. I think that was fake.
Yeah, that was
But
fake.
yeah, it was fake. But what about? So I'm not sure what you're talking about. Please fill me in.
Yeah, so at CERN, there's this tunnel they built. Like in Colorado, we have the Eisenhower Tunnel that runs through the Rocky Mountains right at the Continental Divide. And they built this Goddard Tunnel. And when they unveiled it, they had a ceremony. And it looked very demonic, for lack of a better word. Antler masks on skinny women and cloaks and eerie music. And if anybody's curious, just look up Goddard Tunnel ritual. So when I see that, and then I hear science with CERN, science and mysticism don't match in my paradigm for this place. Science is science, mysticism is mysticism, and never the twain shall meet kind of deal. So then it makes me question one or the other. So is the mysticism fake? Do they do that so they can continue to try to reach demons? Or is CERN just a whole flippin' ruse that none of us can ever go to and realize that it's not really doing what they're saying, but they're sucking all this money out and capturing our mind to believe CERN? I have a feeling from my own perspective when I seen the D-Wave, not D-Wave, but the quantum computers, all copper hanging down in an upside triangle with all these crazy wires and stuff sticking out. My first instinct is like, I went to a garage sale, some kid built this and says, I got a computer to sell you, because it doesn't match what I know of science and computers. And it doesn't mean I'm right. I'm probably ignorant to how they work, and I'll never know, but it makes me question those things. So I'm always very, very skeptical.
Yeah, well, again, skeptical's good. I think skeptical's part of being a believer too. Like again, what do you believe and why do you believe it? Right. I think those are the questions we should ask ourselves over and over and over again, and it should change. Like if we're doing it right, I think it should change every day. Like hourly. If we want to be really super into it, but maybe don't do that because it'll just confuse you. But I don't know. I think that's part of it. That's part of that whole hero's journey, the Joseph Campbell thing, right? Back to that whole thing. Like, if we're the same person when we're 20 as we are when we're 80, God willing, we live that long. Well, what we'll be doing from 20 to 80? Like, what the hell are we doing? Right? Like, yeah, no, I've never seen that Goddard Tunnel thing. I'll look into that. People in the chat are like, yeah, check it out, Mike, check it out. I'm like, okay, all right. Maybe it's a show coming up with Troubled Minds.
It's only so many hours in the day, right?
Yeah, totally.
So let's play this thing. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just that's why talking to each other, like these are the types of things, right? Semi-professional conspiracy theorist for real, still things I've never heard of, right? Not considered, never heard of particulars. So I'll go dig in and let's find these things.
I saw the movie JFK when it came out at the movie theaters, and I think I was probably 19 or 20. And I must have been 21 because I was going to college downtown. And so I saw that movie, very impactful for me. I went down to the library, I'm grabbing the books, I'm like, I want to know who the CIA director was at the time because of the whole conversation with Donald Sutherland character, talking to him in the park. If you haven't seen the movie JFK, I can't recite it, but it's like the reason for the whole movie is that conversation kind of a deal. So I go down, I get the books, and it turns out George Bush Sr. was the director of the Central Intelligence Agency during the JFK hoax, which is another long conversation, but
isn't that peculiar?
I thought it was interesting. I'm like, okay, something funny's going on. I was also terrified when I saw the movie Loose Change because I'm like, well, if I know this and they know this, and they can take out buildings. Why can't they take out me? And it took my ego some time to adapt, and like a couple, 2-3 days. And said, dude, they do not give a shit about you. Relax.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, there's no for guys like us in the grand scheme. There's no real danger until you start to really get a reach, and then they care. But until it's hard to get there because it's stacked against you. But yeah, they don't give a shit about us, about the individuals. They don't care until people start to ask enough questions. Then we have other problems for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And realistically, they probably just block us.
Yeah, well, that's the easiest way. You just flip the switch and get burned off of social media like they did to Alex Jones. But he was wealthy enough to just launch his own platform. So let's hope they ignore us for another several years, Mike.
It's funny how that works when he had a clip where he said his family was CIA and he got bounced out of everything, but he's got the money to have. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so when you were talking about it's great to investigate things, but be careful which rabbit holes you wade into and use some discernment. There's an Australian content creating company that makes these great, honest government ads. And it just makes me want to share this with you. I don't know if you've seen this or a lot of my audience hasn't seen this. I know for sure because I've never attempted to play it. I don't think the Juice Media will throw me a strike, but if they do, I will delete it out of the video, which takes like 5 freaking hours on YouTube, but I will do that anyway because I want to share this with everybody here. Have you ever had to do that? Take something out?
Yeah. I delete. I actually. So the way we do the radio show is we do like the 20 minutes of radio, then like a 5-minute break, and during the break, I'm talking to the chat in between on the streams. But then afterward on YouTube, I trim out the conversations in between, so it's just a seamless radio show from start to finish. So every time when I'm done, I'll trim all those parts out. And you're right, it takes like 3 or 4 hours to actually process. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. So no more power to you. Hey, and everybody who heard that. We're talking with Michael Strange from Troubled Minds Radio and on the Fringe FM, on YouTube, on Rockfin. I've got links down in the chat. If he's going to spend the time to take the commercial breaks out so you have a seamless experience watching it back, you better go over and sub this guy if you like anything he's got to say, because that is the level of dedication that I love. Everybody in chat, I've met some of them, had lunch with some of them, email back and forth. But you know what? I do not spend that kind of time on that. And I think that's a hat tip to you, my friend. So I hope they go over and check out your stuff.
Thank you very much. And it's the tip of the iceberg. Check out Rockfin if you want the full experience. I don't trim it out of there. So it's intentionally 2 different experiences. There we go.
Perfect. So let's watch this video and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Hello, I'm from the U.S. government. Does something feel wrong in the world, but you can't put your finger on it? Are you yearning to fight injustice and be part of something bigger? Do you do your own research? If so, you've been chosen to participate in our new PSYOP, QAnon. PSYOPs are usually carried out by our intelligence agencies in countries we've invaded or whose governments we've overthrown, in order to convince the local population that we're there to help them. QAnon is just like that, except the target isn't a foreign population. It's you. And the government we're planning to overthrow is... Follow the White Rabbit. At the heart of this PSYOP is Q, a government insider who will give you advance warning about major events, like the arrest of Hillary and deep state leaders, which never happened, and the end of the Democratic Party in 2018, who actually went on to win the House that year. And if years of fake predictions start to get you down, don't worry. Trust the plan. The best part of this PSYOP is you'll believe you're in a PSYOP, except that's not the PSYOP you're actually in, but the PSYOP where we let you think you're in a PSYOP. PSYOPception. All we have to do is tell Il Duce to say tip top next to a white rabbit. Q-proof. Joining QAnon is easy because at its core there are some truths. Like the media really does lie to you. There really are powerful predators out there, and there really is a global... As you follow Q's droppings, you'll gradually LARP yourself deep into the rabbit's rectum, where you'll find others who yearn to fight injustice just like you. The 5G crew, the Plandemic crowd, the FEMA camps, and chemtrail folks too, all LARP together into a single LARP we can control. where we LARP one, we LARP all. In exchange for all this entertainment and newfound sense of purpose, all we ask for in return is your help. No, you fucking idiots, not to arrest Hillary. You see, we have no intention of ceding power at this election. So if it looks like we're winning on election night, we'll declare victory, even though millions of votes are still being counted. And if we're losing, we'll declare the election rigged. Either way, that's your cue to get in the streets and prevent further mail-in ballots from being counted. Just like what happened in Florida when rioters shut down the recount of the 2000 election. Among those rioters was this fuckwit, the same one who is now urging us to declare martial law should we lose the election. And among the lawyers who helped to stop the recount was the same one we're pushing hard to appoint to the Supreme Court right now. Coincidence? Follow the white fuckwit. All this should alarm patriots. Except Q has convinced patriots, even the guy who spent decades warning you about the police stated martial law. That martial law is now a good thing. The only thing that can ruin our plan to repeat 2000 is if there's an overwhelming voter turnout against us, which is why we've been doing all we can to deregister millions of you, purge voter rolls, and close polling stations to make voting as hard as possible. What's that? When do we take down the deep state? Aw, honey. The guy who exposed the real deep state is being tortured by it right now. And where are you? Oh, that's right. Q told you to trust the plan and have a big circle jerk on Aiken, the great Oankane. And that's the purpose of QAnon, to convince those who would normally be on the front line of fighting our shitfuckery to sit by and watch as we prosecute your truth tellers, purge your justice system, and rat fuck this election. QAnon. Nothing can stop what's coming, because you'll be sitting on your ass when it does. Authorized by the Department for executing the
How is this still on YouTube? How is this still on YouTube? What the hell?
Isn't that the best?
That's pretty wild. I've actually seen that young lady before in a clip doing some other thing. I actually I need to sub to that. What's it called again?
It's called the Juice Media.
The Juice Me. All right.
I'll drop the link in the chat for people. They're a brilliant channel, good writers. They've gotten to podcasting where you can hear what the guy who writes it has to say about it for 45 minutes or so, the reason he's doing it the way he's doing it, and so forth and so on. But I'll tell you what, I've watched. I don't remember how I found him. Kind of the same way I found you, just looking for something, and boom, there you are. But that would, to me, if a person can watch that, who was a patriot or wanted to see Trump succeed and can't look through the blue team, red team paradigm, if that doesn't do it for you, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a long time in politics.
Yeah, it's funny that as that Q movement was happening, like I never, like, again, being a conspiracy guy, right? All of them, like David Wilcock went, like, I mean, not that he has any credibility left at all anymore anyway, but he went like super Q. What's his name? Alex Jones went super Q. And by the way, go ahead and check. I never went Q. I never went into that rabbit hole because I saw from day one it was some sort of psyop. I was very wary because I was like, oh, trust the plan. That sounds very Orwellian. Let's just trust this plan, shall we? Nah. No thanks. But again, right? Like, I understand. Like, there's a lot of people that are still into that and all the rest of this stuff. I don't know, but I thought that video there was pretty well done. I agree. I think it's a psyop. I think Q was actually manufactured, probably in large part by the CIA, or if not, maybe the movement began and they definitely pulled their strings to push it to the forefront, to give it a lot more fire than it deserved. And I think, well, that's what you get, right? To radicalize patriots. I think that was what it was, to be perfectly honest.
Sure it was. And Trump was just the opposite. He was there to placate patriots for 4 years. My opinion, personal opinion. But I think that was interesting. You said CIA. I have a friend who, well, I got a couple friends, but the point I was going to make without making my mistake of saying what I was going to say is people give so much credit to the CIA. I'll tell you what, the smart people work for the NSA. The smarter of the recruits work for the NSA. So,
yeah. I think there's a lot of insidious stuff going on in the government, and but here's the thing too. I want to be clear, and it's easy to hate on the government at large, but like I said, there are good people working for the government as well. So just be careful. It's like the whole, hate all cops thing. It's as bigoted to me as to hate all any racist thing. It's bigoted. It's
For
the
sure.
same thing. There's a lot of good people that work for the government that love this country and don't want any of this stuff to happen, but nobody listens to them. And this is part of what's going on inside of that deep state. There's a fight. There's definitely a fight going on. You can tell by the way some of these different organizations do press conferences, and it gets left out of the mainstream narratives and things like this. You see, it's all unfortunately so partisan at this point, but there's a fight going on. There's some good people inside. So just a word of caution: don't be so quick to just jump down a government employee's throat because they may be a government employee. One more time, right back to nobody tell me who I can hate. I'll decide myself who I hate. Just be careful. Just be careful, because it's easy to get caught up in that division stuff. Definitely easy for sure. We said we were going to have a drinking contest tonight. How far are you at? I'm drinking some of this.
Oh yeah, see, that's stronger than this. So
It's only 5%.
you already win. This is like 4 point nothing.
Okay. Okay.
And they changed it's not a Mandela effect. It's a marketing freaking thing. If anybody remembers Coors, it was made with Rocky Mountain blank water. Rocky Mountain spring water.
Right.
Was their famous thing forever and ever. They took out the spring because I think this is like Denver Water probably bought the river they were using or something. And so now they just call it Rocky Mountain Water.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, well, duh. Where do you think three rivers originate in the state where I live? Arkansas, Rio Grande, and the Colorado. All that water is Rocky Mountain water. So if you're in Nebraska, or if you're in New Mexico, or if you're in Nevada, you guys steal a lot of our water. Nevada, Arizona, California, that's all Rocky Mountain water too. So Coors, you guys shot yourself in the foot. Maybe you're trying to be honest because it's no longer spring water, but the bastards. I just drink it 'cause it's cheap.
Cheers. Yeah. Cheers. Same here. Same here. Like you could tomorrow it all feels the same anyway. Right.
Depending how many you drink, you're exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see. Water. Oh, I don't know. I had something to say, but I can't
Spring
remember.
water, Coors, manufacturing Mandela effect.
Thank you. Yeah. So check this out. Oddly enough, right? Remember, not just a few short years ago, Google still had the motto "Do no evil." And by the way, they dropped that because, well, then they started working with the Pentagon to make autonomous drone systems to kill people in the Middle East. But, well, then you have to go, well, does that really align with our core values anymore? And then they went and removed the dislike button from YouTube. So, well, I mean, there's probably 1,000 examples between here and there, but it's pretty catastrophic either way. But they were smart enough to at least remove the "Do no evil" motto from Google. So,
I'll tell you, that's one thing that I admire about humans and I dislike at the same time. We can justify anything in our own minds.
Oh yeah. And again, part of troubled minds, right? Part of the entire thing is like the human experience. If you don't realize how many knots we have to twist ourselves in logically to think that our whatever political alignment is superior, you're doing it wrong. Newsflash, you're doing it wrong. Like it is. We literally have to ignore some of the most obvious stupid things to even pick a side and say that this is the way the world should be. And yeah, 100%, man, 100%. We logically, there is no logic. There is no spoon, as they said in the chat earlier.
A true story. And I tell you what, part of it is we accept the world we're born into for the most part. The vast majority of us accept the world we're born into, and we learn the ways of our parents. And I mean, and the tribes did that too. So it's not like that's how it's supposed to work here. If we're ever going to not develop, but maybe be better as a species, and that maybe we don't need to be better. Maybe that's just for me and my goal that we're all better as a species. Maybe we don't have to do that. But if we're ever going to do that, at some point you got to stop and look around and ask yourself some serious questions. And when I seem to point that out to people, they really get super pissed and they don't really want to ask those questions.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? The questions are allowed within a certain spectrum, and that's it. And so they want it to seem like you can think what you want to think, but that's not the reality. That's not the reality. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and here we are. It's a, again, like, kind of literally doing live streams like this, kind of walking on the razor's edge of, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time and just losing your entire YouTube channel. Years of work, like that's the line we're walking here because by the way, it's not allowed. This wrong think is not allowed.
Right.
So we'll see where it leads.
This is what I have to say to those people who want to take it. If they take my channel, more power to them. I'm on Odyssey. I'm live streaming there right now. Somebody in the chat a long time ago said, yep, it's going live, so I know it works. The chat feature's not the same. All the stuff's not the same. But guess what? When you first got on YouTube, none of this stuff was the same. We didn't understand it. We couldn't really function it. We'll get used to the new platforms. Rockfin, I think, is a good one. It's an interesting concept. You can make your stuff free. You can put it behind the premium wall. It's your choice. And I really like that aspect of it. For some reason, and I don't know if it's content or if they have people check you before you can get a channel. I still can't get one over there, so I'm okay with that. But back to the wrong think thing. Well, the question, my grandmother called me a question box when I was a little kid because that's all I would do is just ask questions. I was trying to figure this place out as fast as I could. I don't know. I don't know about reincarnation. I don't have memories of past lives. I did a regression when my ex-wife told me to a long time ago, and it could have been a dream. I could have fallen asleep. I go into REM sleep sometimes in like an hour. I can have REM sleep in a nap. So I can't say it wasn't a dream or it was real, but I may have come here and said, dude, you got to figure this place out as fast as you can. Because when you're capable to speak to people and reach them, you're going to be in a bad situation. So let's get going. And I pissed away a lot of good time just experiencing the place. But I think that's also what we're here for, just to experience it.
Yeah, well, that's the journey. Again, back to the twisting ourselves in knots just to be human. But it's also, hopefully we spend half of our life twisted up in those knots, and hopefully the back half of our life, God willing, long life and all that stuff, and untwist it and, be able to start really seeing what's happening around us. And that's what it's all about. Again, for you, for me, for everybody. And, think about it. If some people are just so stuck in their dogma at this point, they think they're right forever. I think you're leaving a lot of spiritual elbow grease on the table, if you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
there's,
for sure.
there's some things out there, just because you were taught one particular way doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it's going to be forever. And don't forget, it's up to you. It's up to you. It's sort of breaking down these traditions. And again, like, I respect the traditions. I think some of these traditions are probably smarter than us now, right? Smarter than these knots we twist ourselves in with this whatever the hell reality is we live in now. But a lot of that stuff I respected a great deal because, like I've always said, wisdom is wisdom. I don't care if it comes from this book or that book or the other book. It's still wisdom, right? And if you can't process it and learn something from it, it's not about the book. It's about you. And well, here we are. Do no evil.
Do no evil. That's funny. Do you ever see that movie Dogma with Alanis Morissette and Jay and Silent Bob?
Yep. Hilarious.
Great example of breaking down exactly what you're talking about. Wisdom's here is where it is.
Exactly. So, find it where it is. And again, like try not to tear down. It's like this, right? You may hate me, right? Like, just for an example, nobody hates me, but you may hate me, right? And well, you like that? Like I said, if you can't laugh at yourself, who the hell should you be laughing at? It's okay. It's okay to laugh at yourself, but nobody hates me. But if you did, right, then, well, should you discount something smart I said once just because you hate me? It doesn't seem right. I mean, maybe my entire existence, and let's say the universe works in mysterious ways, and like Einstein said that coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Let's say just by example, and I'm not flattering myself to a God level, so please don't take it that way, but just as a coincidence, wink, wink, that maybe you were supposed to hear that one thing I said that one time, even though you hate me, right? Maybe that was the thing you needed to hear in that moment. Well, are you going to let the fact that you hate all the other stuff I do maybe block you from that wisdom because of your human visceral hatred for the alien hat and the microphone?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely I am, because they taught me emotions backward. They taught me that emotions are primary and experience is secondary, when actually it's the opposite way around. So I don't know how to navigate this place because I'm always believing my emotions are primary when they're actually secondary, then I think that's a huge thing that fucks most people up. But a side note, do you know Crow 777's work at all?
Yeah, just a little bit. I've only watched a few times, but I'm familiar. He's been in the game a long time. Is very respected. Yes.
Yeah, and his catchphrase is "Belief is the enemy of knowing."
Ah, yes.
So that person that hates you has a belief about you, but you're giving them the key, that single sentence that's going to unlock their world for a better experience. And if they choose to have hate over you instead of being able to discern that, well, hey, move on to the next one, screw them, and let's keep going.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the whole point. Isn't that the point of being human? Isn't that the point of being here and going through this? We're all going through it one way or the other, right? It's just, maybe we end up somewhere better than where we were, for sure. Somebody in the chat there, Ms. Taz says, can someone share Mike's link? Troubledminds.org. One website's got everything there. Troubledminds.org. If you guys are looking for more Troubled Minds, it's all there. There you go. Easiest way to do it, so I don't have to have the long weirdo link. One website to rule them all. One website to bind them. One website to bring them all. And well, I forgot the rest of it. So
it's probably good you did, because that's anyway, Taz, troubleminds.org. There's also links, Taz, beneath the thing here for his YouTube and Fringe FM. So
thank you. Appreciate that, Mike.
Oh yeah, no, of course. I do that for people that I'm glad you're here. This is a great conversation. I'm kind of noticing how long it's been already. It seems like it's gone by super fast. We're a couple hours in. We can wind it up if you want to. I can drop a StreamYard link if you want to talk to people. It's kind of, I'm letting you steer the ship because I'm good either way.
Okay, if you are into some more, let's I don't know, let's maybe take a break real quick. I'll go hit the restroom. I'm good for another hour or so. If you want to stick, if you got to go, I understand.
No, I've got plenty of time, and I do have something I can play for the break. So take your time. Come back when you're here. How's that?
Yeah, just be a minute or two. I'll be right back. Just want to make sure my teeth aren't swimming at the end of hour 3.
and to check on the little carpet muncher. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I say a politically incorrect thing?
Except, well, it doesn't matter because in this case, it's absolutely accurate.
But I will be called misogynistic by some circles.
Yeah, of course. And I laughed, so I'm
right
what do you
there
call
with
me? Yeah.
Co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator, exactly. We set up this entire stream just to make that off the cuff political incorrect joke. Be right back. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, buddy. So this is fun. Michael Strange is awesome. I hope you guys like him as much as I do. I hope you're having fun. I know the chat has been busy. I haven't really paid attention to you guys. Do you have questions for Michael? Do you have anything you guys want to throw in there? I will ask him questions. Patrick is live too. Go say hi to Patrick. Robert's our new timeline. He's a good man doing good Mandela effect work. Yeah, Taz, I think you'll like what Michael has to say. He's got a big heart. You can tell when you just listen to him. So, yeah, and if there are any women who like women, I did not intend to offend. I just thought it was funny. I had the chance to say something. Good job, Super Champion Rocker. So, yeah, let's see. I thought I had something to play. I sure do. Maybe. Nope. Not sharing screen. Let's find that video. I hope you guys like that Q video. And if you like Q and you got offended, then you know what I think about that. Let's see. Where was it? I'll play Blind Joe, but they'll make me take it out. I can't do that. No, I don't have anything good to play, so I'll just prattle on a little bit. If you guys can, say a prayer for Mile High Scribs. He's going through some health things. Or good positive vibes. If you don't know Mile High Scribs, he's regular. I've known him for 5 or so years. He's a good person. St. Marie Nettie has just gone through some personal stuff. Good vibes to her would be good. Hi, Paul from Newcastle. Jack the Giant Slayer. I said hi to Lewis. Terminal Arc. Hope I said that right. Yeah, it's good to have channels come together, I think, who do the same thing in a different or even the same way. So, Night Stalker, you named it. That was quick. You're very fast. Good to see you back. Not you, Night Stalker. I was talking to Michael. So,
What's up?
the natives in Australia. Please pray for the natives in Australia who are being moved into camps. The word is, yeah, tough stuff going on in the realm. It's challenging out there. And I think the conversations that you and I are having tonight, if when they kicked all the kids out of school and we cleaned up our language and made our conversation so adolescent 6 to 14-year-olds could stay right with us on this thing, and we did this every day, 5 days a week, in the same kind of way, by the time they got done with our class, I bet the world would be changed. Because they would think for themselves.
Well,
That'd
again,
be the bottom line.
I hope that to be the case. I hope that to be the case. How about that?
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, dog's doing okay? Oh, you got to hear this ring on this phone. Check it out. Oh, there we go. It's
Nice.
the old-fashioned ring.
I love it. I have mine set to that as well.
Do you? Good. Yes, yeah, because you know all the nostalgia stuff, right? So,
well, it also sounds like a phone ringing, and not like the bass is about to drop. Boom, boom, boom. like, whoa, what just happened? Oh, it's just the phone.
or some creepy esoteric music that, yeah. When those ringtones first came out, you remember when cell phones first came out, and those ringtones, they were just like, is somebody just sitting around trying to scare the shit out of us, or that is not a telephone?
No, exactly, right. There's breaking down the paradigm. It's a super cute and all, but then, well, here we are. Here's our old man get off my lawn moment. Damn it, the telephone should sound like a telephone. I swear to God.
So, do you have a take on mud flood, ancient architecture, any of that stuff?
Yeah. So I think the mud flood thing in particular to me is, let's say, inconclusive in my brain. I don't think that that's the way things, but again, I'm not the arbiter of that truth or any truth, by the way. But I do think that regarding ancient civilizations, I do think we've talked about this quite often on Troubled Minds, that as Graham Hancock said, that humanity is a species with amnesia. And so we talk about the long count calendar and things like this. And then, kind of in religion, the world over, there's that one flood, right? The one flood. It's literally in everything, every document you can find, everything traces back to the flood. And well, I mean, that was what, pre-Ice Age, right? Maybe 10, 12,000 years ago, something like this. Went into the Ice Age, now we're coming out of it. So in terms of like cataclysms the world over, I think that this just that one event has been so prevalent in the zeitgeist and in mythology and has kind of shaped everything for just humanity in terms of history and anthropology and all the rest of this, archaeology. But I think it's only one cycle. I mean, what about 15,000 years ago? There was another flood, and on and on and on. And so I think it's definitely not just likely. I think it's not just plausible. I think it's likely that there have been ancient civilizations, and possibly even more highly advanced than we will ever know, because it's been washed away by 2 floods or 3 floods now. Or, we were talking about Atlantis and Lemuria the other night on Troubled Minds there, the lost continent of Mu. And, is there any actual basis to that? Do you think that's possible? And I think that without direct evidence, and we've seen that with all these floods and changes in the world and the crust and moving and the earthquakes and the volcanoes, and I mean, all the things, like the world is always moving and changing. And so I think that to find evidence of those civilizations might be fruitless at some point. Maybe that stuff is so far underwater that, well, we'll never find it. So I don't know. I think it's likely that ancient civilization wise, it's a thing. I think it's a thing for sure. How and why exactly, I'm foggy on the specifics, because there's so many stories of, exactly like the mud floods or Atlantis or Lemuria or you name it, right? Back to the Anunnaki stories of, ancient Sumer and all the rest of that. I don't know. Like again, I'm not, as always, I'm never trying to convince anybody of the things I talk about as truth, these things being true, but let's consider them as maybe being possible, right? I think that's it.
No, I think you're right. And if there were a flood, given what we know the Earth is made of, there probably was a lot of mud afterward.
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of it, right? That's part of the cycle of that long count calendar is things are going to be buried. So as far as, like this happening is, as soon as like 1810 or something, I'm a little less into that. But I think it's probably more likely that something like that existed. And again, long count calendar. I'm going to stick with that. Again, like I said, till I find evidence that suggests otherwise. Because as always, right, what I think today is not what I think tomorrow based on new information, new evidence. And I think that's what it's all about.
And that's the tough part for me. I like to speculate, and I like to think that there is things we can know about the past until I learn that most of the 20th century that I was taught was not complete. It was one version of it. I don't say it's a fake or a lie because it's one version of it. It's not the entire story, and there are motives and there's machinations that people do, and there's evil abound, and there's all these things that go with that. So when I see a channel or a person say, well, I found maps that show Greater Tartaria as most of the world, and this was their Tartarian architecture, and it appeared they had free energy, and I'm skeptical, but I can also look at things and say, well, that seems to be a legitimate photograph in a book, and unless the book was Mandela affected to that degree, it's probably real, or probably as truthful as we can get. So, and that's the premise I work from. And then I'm left with way more questions than answers. So when people say, well, what do you think about mud flood? I'll be like, I think a lot of things about mud flood. It looks as though there's evidence of something that was there. I don't know what caused it. I don't know when it happened, but I can see evidence of it. And I can see architecture that was said to have been built in the 1840s, when every photograph of that showed guys and horses and buggies and pulleys and ropes, and there's no flipping way in hell they made that. So something doesn't jive with the timeline. I think that's what's more important to me, as opposed to what caused it, when it had the timeline for where we are in reference to everything, including the Bible. The biblical timeline to me was a huge thing mentally to try to straighten out. So that's the kind of the way I approach all that stuff. And I will tell you, there's no more answers there than what your approach was, to have more questions and be able to pinpoint different things and say, well, I still don't know the answer.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's also one of those dangers, one of those rabbit hole dangers. I think that part of life is sort of that the secret of mystery, right? That whole right. I think we should, not. I get there's completionists and people want answers to everything, but personally, I think that chasing too deep for specific answers can be detrimental. It could be one of those situations where you're so invested again in the time spent that you have to convince yourself, because you want to believe it. And those are the types of things where, again, like I said, not that in particular, that goes toward anything. And so again, not to get in, I don't want to get into flat earth unless you really want to, but there's this, there are people that just literally press. And it seems as dogmatic as anything else to me. It's like, okay, I get it. You really believe that. That's cool. That's fine. I understand. I respect you, and I'm not going to ridicule you, make fun of you. I don't believe it. Right. And so, well, we've got a difference of opinion, and that's fine. But when they are so locked into something as the truth is dangerous to me. The truth is dangerous, meaning when we manufacture a truth for ourselves, and then never take no for an answer, or that we could be wrong. That to me is a dangerous concept. And so not in particular flat earth is dangerous, but I think anything like that is dangerous when we lock into that pattern. Even Catholicism, or you pick any religion in the world, they can be dangerous because people lock into that and will defend it to death. And that's like, wait, like, you're really going to defend to the death an idea that was taught to you by somebody else. And then back to your timeline thing, even more strange. I'm in agreement that I think it's possible. I don't know about probable, possible that our timeline's been manipulated, meaning that this may not be the year we think it is, right? Maybe they carved out, the Dark Ages or something like this, right? Historically, I'm open to that, but again, I don't know, right? Like I said, I'm not a scholar. There's a lot of letters people wrote to each other in these times that are dates and things. So so there's evidence that refutes this. That would be a whole lot of evidence to manufacture, right? So I don't know. Like I said, I'm caught in between. I don't know. I don't know the answers there, but I'm definitely open to those ideas. And well, are they the truth? Like I said, I always say the truth is a slippery fish, and to catch it, you might fall down and bump your head on the rocks. So be very, very careful.
True story. No, and it does appear that though there is 1,000 years missing or added to the timeline. There's a lot of case to be made for that. Will we ever know? Probably not.
Yeah, I did a show on that a while back. I know exactly what you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, probably a year and a half, maybe. But yeah. And so I agree. I think it's possible the timelines have been manipulated somehow. I don't know why or what for. I think that's the weird part, right? When you're talking about elites and you talk about, we're told that the reading and writing levels were horrific back in the day. Well, it would be easy to do something like that, wouldn't it? It would kind of be easy. You tell everybody that this is the new day, this is the new calendar, and then that little detail gets washed from history, and then people run with the new calendar, and that's that. It wouldn't be the first time a new calendar was created, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it would be just as easy as, hey, Bally Music Journey, it would be just as easy as convincing people that the thing we called the flu and now has a different name and is going to kill everybody on the planet. I think it would be just as easy to change the timeline as it is to do something like that. Just as a hypothetical.
Yeah, exactly. Hypothetically speaking, the nature of our reality, right, and propaganda and the rest of this stuff. I think that's what it's all about, and that's why you should ask questions outside the allowed realm, And again, so aliens is a great, almost onion-like cover to ask some questions that you might not be allowed to otherwise. Back to that Rod Serling thing, and I think it's legit. But again, right, back to aliens being real. Yeah, maybe too. Also, maybe also, so there's a whole lot here that's kind of fits into all of these weird threads of figuring things out, or even just asking the right questions, barking up the right tree. Just because you're barking up the right tree doesn't mean you'll actually catch whatever's up there, but at least you're barking up the right tree,
Sure. Yeah. And I think the discernment piece for your individual self, when you're not invested in the outcome, literally not invested in the outcome, then it's much easier to see things, I think, more clearly. And that's what I was going to touch on briefly. People who are zealot flat earther people, and I don't use zealot lightly, no more than I do a guy who would put a bomb to his chest and do a thing, or, whatever they do with their belief systems. The reason I believe it's prevalent with that particular community, and I am a big skeptic of the heliocentric model. Big skeptic. The maths are weird, and some technology with photography's come out that makes things questionable. But I think the reason they are that way is adopting that belief system freed them up from something that was so oppressive, and they didn't feel like they had a place in the universe, and they were a little speck spinning through space, and nobody gave a shit about them. And then I found a belief system where God cares about me more than anything and made this place just for me. And I think it's very self-assuring on one level. I also think if a person gets liberated with any belief system, just like we had these Christian people back in the day where they were born against and they felt so much better about everything in their life that they wanted to do everything to share that with you. And they would invite you to church, and you'd have to figure out ways to make up reasons why you didn't want to go and all this stuff. And in a long enough timeline, you saw their marriages fail like everybody's do to a degree. Not everybody, but half of them. And you saw their kid get an addiction, and then you saw, something else happen. So that born again status for them in that moment was so revelatory that they wanted everybody to have it. And I totally appreciate that. It's a little annoying if somebody's zealot flat earther, it's a little annoying, but I think when I see them coming from that place, it changes the way I view them. And And just like I know you've alluded to it and you haven't outright said it, but who am I to judge anybody for anything they think? I don't
Yeah,
have. That's above my pay grade.
yeah, exactly. Same here. And I think some wacky stuff, right? And that's a very Catholic thing, right? Like you're not supposed to be making judgments on earth, are you? Like, and I'm not saying I'm Catholic or you are or anything. I'm saying that it's wisdom. And wisdom, again, comes from places you'd never expect. And so just because the Catholic Church and the Vatican and all the child molestation and all the crazy stuff that's going on with all of that, right? All the weirdness and the bizarre ritual and the thing, you could say a lot of like wacky things about the Catholic Church, but it still doesn't matter. There's wisdom in some of that doctrine. And that's what I said. Like, just because you because you hate the Catholic Church so much, are you going to just eschew some of that wisdom because it came from a sketchy place? I don't think so. I think judgment is above our pay grade, and that's well said. And I think we should have that on a t-shirt, like it should be one of those things where to remind us that we're no better. Like, we like to think we are. Like to think we're more enlightened or this or that or the other thing. But no, like the answer to that is no. Like, as an individual, I'm sorry. Until you can float and show me you can turn into a Merkaba and fly to the moon, no.
Right,
you're not any better. Stop the judgment. You're not any better. And that's just how I see it. And it's okay. It's okay to believe those things. Like I said, and this is where I am very locked in with people in the flat earth movement, is that they are also trying to bark up the same tree that we are.
Yeah.
They're just doing it a different way, completely different way. And that's fine. And I get it. I understand. But like you said, when it becomes zealot-like, well, we have another problem. But it's a zealot from any other thing. A Catholic zealot is just as annoying as a flat earth zealot, right? Same thing.
Yeah. And it's a growth. It's another step in that emotional maturity process, to where and I love all my family. I love them. And some of them, they'll find something new, whether it be a food, and I do it sometimes too, but they do it different. So like, I have an air fryer. I've got a Instapot Duo, which I love to cook out of. Dude, it's the best thing ever.
An air fryer, get an air fryer. Holy shit.
It's amazing, right? So it's a little mini convection oven, which they've had for a long time, but they reintroduced it. And I love to make breakfast potatoes that are crispy, soft inside.
Oh my God. I'm with you. Potatoes. Potatoes and oh my God.
Best thing ever.
It's so good.
So I had leftover bacon. And what do you do with leftover bacon? You put it on a salad because it's hard to reheat. No, you throw it in that air fryer for 1 minute while the potatoes are finishing. It's like brand new bacon. It's the most amazing thing ever. So I share that with my sister who's got an air fryer. I'm like, she's the one who called me, by the way. But I share that with her, and I'm like, you got to try this. And if she didn't like it, that's the difference. Whereas she shares something with me, if I don't like it, she kind of takes it personally.
Right.
And if I share something and she doesn't like it, I'm like, oh, okay, you're lost. Moving on. And so there's just a different approach to all that dogmatism and zealotry and all that stuff. And you don't strike me like you have a zealot bone in your body about anything.
Well, pride, again, pride is one of those things, back to that ego, right? Like, I'm not kidding. I joke about this, but I'm not kidding. My ego is as large as the sun. I say that a lot. I'm going to continue saying that, right? But it's not about that, is it? It's about, which means I'm even to my detriment confident, right? But when it gets in the way of things, right? When it gets in the way of relationships, when it gets in the way of your own growth, when you know what I'm saying? So it's okay. We're human. We're supposed to have an ego. It's part of being human. But when it controls you and you don't control it, that's the time, right? That's the problem. That's, again, it's like any other problem. Too much of anything is bad. And it's one of the things that probably is, most detrimental, short of violence and all this other horrific stuff that humans do to each other. But, the ego, it plays such a role in the I'm right and you're wrong. And let's fight about it instead of let's talk about it. And, like, why do you think this is the truth? I'll tell you why I think I have the truth, Like, think about if those types of conversations, egoless, happened, what kind of world we would live in instead. It's unreal to me. Just that simple little thing. But then it's I understand the dynamic in a world where we're constantly devalued as individuals, that we have to fight tooth and nail for our own our own spot in the world, our own, like, put our flag in the ground with our ideas and our thought process. And, so I get it. I understand, but you're valued, like, even if it doesn't feel like it, there are places you're valued. Find those places. Okay. Because they exist. There are people out there that care, that want to know what you think. Even if they don't agree with it, they want to know what you think and they want to know why. And those are the places you need to find. And I don't care if that's a mosque. I don't care if that's a synagogue. I don't care if that's a church. I don't care if it's a social club. I don't care if it's at the lunchroom at work. I don't care. Find it. Be there. Spend some time there. And don't just God, we fight so much over terrible, stupid things, right? Just unbelievably stupid things. Man, have you been on the internet lately?
I'm internet. I'm internet adjacent.
Okay, all right.
I don't have. I had Facebook for 5 minutes about 2 or 3 years after it came out. A person called me up and said, "There's this really fun thing I do called Farmville, and I want you to be part of that, and I want you to trade horses and cows with me." And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that stuff. And she called me back and, come on, so she was relentless. And finally, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take a look at it. So I log in, I create a profile, I've got my email address, I sign up for Facebook, and I'm starting to set preferences and put my picture up and do some nonsense stuff. And I notice it populated a bunch of people that I'm supposed to go make contact with. And I'm looking through this list and I know most, like all of them. And I'm thinking the connections in my brain. And one of them was my ex-wife. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. She's not in my email address book, but they're asking me to contact her. I must be in her email address book because I didn't put any information in that would say that we were connected. But they must be able to get into her address book and see who's in there to populate. And then I deleted it right then. I called this woman back and I said, absolutely not. I'm not doing it, not having it. And pretty much from that day forward, I've stayed away from all of the social medias except for this one and Discord, because Discord's a different deal. And then a couple years after that, that one great person made that video you could still find it. It's, do you have the Facebook? And it talks about DARPA and all the connections. And I'm just like, okay, so I made a good choice. And also, same reason I don't have a smartphone, Mike. I just like, it's like, no, I can't. So I don't know. I know the internet's a vile place and people hate on each other as if they're getting paid to do it. And maybe some of them are, maybe a lot of the bots are. And so I'm internet adjacent still.
Yeah, no, and there's something to be said for that. Like we said in the beginning of this conversation, we're Generation X. We have a distinct advantage in that we have seen both of those worlds, the pre-digital world and the post, and so we get to kind of decide how much of that we want to be part of. And again, the digital native, somebody born tomorrow, doesn't have a choice. There's literally no choice,
right? And
so they're locked into that. And they can't ever escape it. And the funny thing is, right, it's supposed to help us, right? Like the funny part about cell phones in general, right? It's like you get the cell phone for your own convenience, but now everybody's calling you constantly. Now your cell phone's for everybody else's convenience. And it's a funny thing, and you don't have to answer the phone and all the rest of that, right? And I'm not complaining that people want to talk to me. Don't get me wrong. Right. It's an analogy for a larger problem, and that the internet is the same thing. Right? You can't escape it no matter where you go. Even if like you don't own a smartphone, you could end up on people's, videos that go up on YouTube as you're walking through the park, like at some point it's out of your hands anymore. And the more and more ubiquitous the surveillance state gets, that's where we're at. And you can't log out anymore. There's no such thing as logging out. Your biometrics and your facial recognition, it's all part of you. Whether you engage or not, but yeah, at least there's some choice still, and we understand what a world before the internet looked like. And like I said, I think it's a distinct advantage. I think it's an advantage in understanding. Sure, we miss some of the boat when it comes to new technology, but also we remember what it was like before technology at all. So yeah,
definitely. And if you think, just as you were talking about that, I'm thinking back to my first PC that I bought was Windows 95, And I think back about that. I'm like, okay, so that is 25 years ago, because I think I bought it in 96 or 97, 24 years ago. So anybody 24 years and younger is literally hardwired digital.
Yeah, it's part of you. It's
And
literally a
yeah,
thing. Yeah. Like it's likely that your birth certificate is not even a piece of paper anymore. It's a certificate in a digital server somewhere.
right. And I work with kids that age. That we have a lot of temporary help during the summer, and I work with people from 14 to I think our oldest person there is 83 who owns a company. And I when I speak with them and interact with them, I can see that they're completely digital creatures. But also earlier when I said I was so positive on millennials, they are digital creatures, but their parents are us for a good
Right.
degree. So they
Right.
were raised with some of the same stuff, and a lot of them have a yearning for that because you want to be like your dad. And girls want to be like their mom, and we aspire to be like our teachers and the people we respect and admire. And so there's a lot of room to bring a lot of millennials to help us fix all this stuff. I personally think.
Yeah, no, they're the future. I mean, again, they're they're going to have more impact on the world than we are because they've got more time in it. So let's hope that they can click in faster than we did. Let's hope the internet is an asset and not a danger. Let's hope that all these things. Again, I am hopeful that all these things are possible. Like I said, the internet's great. We wouldn't be doing this without the internet, right? But also, on the other hand, we would not have the metaverse without the internet. And it's coming. It's coming. The world is about to change in 5 years, the next 5 years, in another ridiculous way. Just like the internet changed the world, the metaverse is going to change the world again in a short span. It's going to be creepy, man. Things are about to get nuts.
Well, do you think it's just going to be the VR, the Ready Player One VR, sit in your place and get the basic income so you can buy food and stay in the digital realm and have all of your energy transacted there? Do you think that's where we're headed?
I think so. I think so. So you know how they do crypto mining now? It's done with like either like dedicated crypto machines that they build. They're like little computers, but it's not functional like a computer. They got high end video cards in them, and you could crypto mine yourself in like kind of on a personal basis. But then they have these giant like custom crypto rigs built in that do this stuff constantly, and they plug them into these huge power sources and all the rest of that. I think what's going to happen coming up, and here's a prediction. Go ahead and put this in the Mike Stradamus, what the next 5 years is going to look like. The metaverse is going to be used for that. So we're going to be with these goggles on in the metaverse, and our interactions with particular things or places or even ideas are going to be rewarded in these crypto spaces. So instead of these maybe video cards or the rest of this being used as a way to mine crypto, they're going to use us to mine crypto. And so our engagement, those engagement algorithms, as we visit the metaverse and go to, Algo's place, right? And we hang out there as we engage in Algo's place, whether it's a conversation or a chat or jumping around or whatever it happens to be, whatever the desired habit is, they're going to use us to mine crypto. And meaning that, of course, we get a cut and, they get a cut. And they always get a bigger cut, don't they? There we go.
Yeah, and then we pay tax on our cut.
Yes, exactly. And then they've moved to Ireland for the triple Dutch sandwich or whatever they call it, and dodge the taxes. So
well, and that's a great thing to think about. I did this while you were talking because I'm like, oh God, just kill me now. But it's a good premise that it's an accurate. I think it's an accurate prediction only from the aspect that it's very plausible. You can see it headed that direction. Right now, currently, I personally think Vegas is probably mining the most crypto of anywhere in the western part of the country next to the big place in Utah, because all of those slot machines are 24/7, 365, and it would not be hard to link that computing power in those to what's underneath maybe the surface. And so there's probably a lot of shenanigans going on in places like that. But if we do wind up in a place where what you're talking about does come to fruition in even a 40% of the population way, because not everybody's going to do it. I mean, it's clear not everybody does everything.
Yeah.
Even by default. I mean, it's just not a realistic premise. But if that does happen, I think you're going to see life expectancy drop off. I think you're going to see suicide rate climb. I think you're going to see all the connection that I personally have with nature is one of my balancing, grounding things, to where if it's as bad as it's going to get, and I'm sitting there faced with a disaster in front of my feet based on my choices, if I get in nature, I'm high enough up, it's quiet enough, and hopefully there's a stream or a creek nearby, I can melt that stuff away, regroup, and come back.
The primal waters. That's another theme there. What's up, Night Stalker? See you out there. No, but I agree 100%. Meaning that I think again, when I said that, you know, we're all born the same, naked and screaming and peeing on the nurses. Well, we're not given a how to be human handbook, but I think what you just said is as close as I think many of us will ever need. Is, you know, don't forget to commune with nature. Don't forget to spend time with your feet in the dirt. Spend time, you know, with your hand on the trees, just in spaces where it'll cleanse us. You know, it will make us realize we're part of this larger thing that is not as insidious as, right, the human construct. Sure, nature can be brutal. It can be the savage garden, as it's been known and called. But it can also be an absolutely gorgeous place of healing and growth and knowledge and all the rest of that. So 100%, man, it is, do it. Spend more time outside. I'm with you. I'm with you, man.
If we're cut off from that based on our new economic system, more so than we already are currently, because I've been to Vegas, and even if you're on the outskirts of Vegas, the closest thing I've seen to nature in like metro Vegas area are palm trees and, you know, big cockroaches run around sometimes on the ground. And the natural ones, not the dirty ones, but the natural.
Yeah, they live out here in the desert.
Yeah, you got to go into the hills. You got to drive for a while. You have to detach, make an effort, spend some time, get in the vehicle, take a bite, whatever you do, and get out there and literally go. You have to seek nature if you're in Las Vegas.
It depends. So I actually live on the very, very outskirts, almost the very, very edge. And so I could walk to an archaeological dig. Right? I can, there are trails out here, bike trails within, you know, I could be on one, hop on a bike and be on a bike trail in less than 5 minutes. Like it just depends, right? Like clearly I live nowhere near the concrete jungle. Which, why would you? In my opinion, why would you? So we'll see how long we stay in Vegas, by the way, but because it's always growing, it's always encroaching on those natural areas. But there's some beautiful nature places in Vegas, man. Red Rocks, if you've never been up there, it's there. But I get what you're saying. It's one of those things that we're losing. We're definitely losing it by having these big metropolis type areas. Kind of sucks. I'm not sure where you're at in Colorado, but I'm sure you probably got a lot more trees than we do, right?
Yeah, they're all spruce and, you know, those kind of trees. They imported trees into the city. Aspen and the spruce grow here naturally. All the elks and elms and all that stuff they brought in, but and to where you are geographically in relation to the city, it makes sense that you're more sane than a person who lives, you know, half a mile from the strip. Or in the city of New York, landlocked in a concrete jungle, they can go to Central Park, which is great, and it's a huge place, and you can get some reprieve there. But if we're too detached, which your explanation of crypto mining through the metaverse, and I did think of Ready Player One, I'm like, oh man, we're screwed. That's just bad.
That's where it's headed. Imagine when the work is so automated that's what we have to do to survive. Right? Your metaverse engagement is what pays for your food. Yeah, man. It could become a dark place super fast.
Well, and I can see that with YouTube creators who made lots of money before they changed things in like 2016. And if you just took the time to get on YouTube, and even if your stuff was crap, you had a whole bunch of views, you got a whole bunch of monetization, you could do that, and not in a metaverse way, but in a very similar way, as opposed to going out and laying sod, or going out and building something, or cooking food for somebody, or doing the natural things that we know to be natural for humanity for so long. So I guess when people talk about, well, you got to change and go with the flow. If you want transhumanism, then you can have transhumanism. And if you don't want transhumanism, you're going to have to fight and kick and scratch to not have it, I think.
Yeah, well, then think of that. So once you're locked into the metaverse and your job becomes touching something over and over again, whether it's the engagement algorithm, right? Whether it's a thumbs up or the dislike or the mad emoji or whatever it is inside the metaverse, then you're going to be behind the game of people that have chips in them, have Neuralink, right? Because then you don't have to use your fingers manually. You just do it with your brain. And yeah, that's the whole, there's your matrix, right? There's your whole, are we living in the base reality? And this is just a new one we're creating. And the one we're already in is one that was created previously by who exactly?
Excellent question. It does. And it may be a permanent cyclical forever kind of a deal. And we're just happen to catch ourselves in this moment of that thing and have the awareness enough to recognize that, oh, wait a minute, all these past lives, I've been in metaverse every freaking time I've been here. I see no way out. And maybe that's the thing that's going around the internet now, when they say, if you have the chance, when you cross over, don't go in the light because it brings you right back here. And who knows if that's true or not, but
it's the U-turn.
Yeah, it is. It's like, oh, come to the light, and you go in the light, and you're like, ah, shit, I'm here again, and the metaverse is coming by the time I'm 55 again. Damn it!
Right. Or maybe the next time around it's already implemented, and you're back in a new one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know how it works either, but it is interesting, and a person like you who can clearly explain that and lay it out, and then we can see examples where people are already kind of living that way and they don't know it. They don't call it the metaverse, but they call it being a YouTube creator who's not in a studio. I mean, there's studios that make probably 2/3 of the content that people consume, and they think it's a person, and it's really not. I mean, it is, but it's not an organic, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right. It's they're getting paid to do it. Somebody's telling them what to say. They're on a payroll.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And the studio makes all the clicks and they get all the ad revenue and all that stuff. So if we're already there with this, and literally, I think the PC saturation point didn't happen until about 2007 in most of the Western worlds, which 2005, 2007, depends who you ask. Same year the smartphone came out, coincidentally. If we're only there from 14 years ago, Bohr's law doesn't count anymore. It doesn't, it's exponential now. And that metaverse thing, maybe not this Christmas because they have to do a lot of other stuff, but midsummer next Christmas, metaverse will be
5 years. Mike Stradamus, 5 years.
By 5 years, it'll be completed.
5 years completed, and people will be working full-time inside the metaverse within 5 years.
Okay.
My picture.
Okay.
I think so. Again, just one guy's opinion. I could be wrong. There's a lot I don't understand about it, but I see what's coming. They're selling real estate already in the metaverse. And some of these plots, tiny plot was selling for between anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 at auction. And some of the big companies have already purchased up to a couple $1 million in property inside the metaverse. Yeah, it's coming, man. It's coming.
Can I just say that's as retarded as NFTs?
well, yes. But you see that will be the trick. That's the carrot on the stick, dude. So all the crypto mining inside the metaverse is your labor, your time, your energy, your labor, right? The carrot on the stick is the lottery ticket. And the lottery ticket is eventually randomly, you may win an NFT that's worth quite a bit of money. So it keeps you there. Mining the crypto.
So if I want to be a digital millionaire, well, it's just same like the analog world. I mean, that's kind of it's not it's the principle works the same as in the analog world for the most part. So if I want to be a digital millionaire in the metaverse, I'm already behind 6 months. I better get my ass going.
You're
I should
behind.
be, I'm buying Baltic Avenue and I should be buying Park Place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's available out there still too. And so the thing is, right, it takes a leap of faith because we're kind of in that in-between period. But the early investors in the metaverse are going to be next decade's billionaires.
Of course, yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. And the metaverse terrifies me. Just the concept, the notion, and how malleable the human brain is and susceptible to manipulation and all the rest of that stuff. It's again, right? Like I like to think I'm in a different place than that and can, dip in and out of that, but I'm human too.
Sure.
Who knows? Who knows?
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought of a fundamental difference between the analog and the digital when you were talking about how it scares you, and it really did resonate with me. And it kind of reinforces probably maybe some of your thinking that in the digital realm, if I say something wrong here, it's a keystroke to remove that. In the analog world, if I say something wrong in a crowd or in a line, somebody has to come up to me, look me in the eyeballs, say, "You're an asshole, take that back." And I have the option to apologize or say no. And then we can go to fist fights, or we can pull out guns, or we can do a whole bunch of stuff. In the digital realm, we don't have any control over that. We only to the extent that we can use the interface. Whomever programs that metaverse has all of the control over that.
Yes, but exactly. And so back to that base reality. So what if this is already the metaverse? And so what about the programmer? So we think there's control, but maybe there's not. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can see that, to where I don't get to determine when I check out of this body. That's something I don't get to determine. While I'm in it, I can exercise it and I can use it. It seems more real because we can touch it. But some of the VR, it's going to seem as real to our minds as what we're doing right now.
100%. Yeah.
And it should scare the shit out of everybody.
Exactly. And again, think about the generation that's born in 5 years from now. Talking about digital natives, there will be metaverse natives. Telling you, just like you described earlier when we were talking about this, when you turn over a society super fast, this is exactly what it looks like. And they'll say, "Oh, it's the best thing since the internet." And we're like, "Oh no, the internet brought out a lot of assholes." So what does this look like on the next level of this?
Wow, boy, I really need to find something good to watch after we're done streaming, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. That's a disturbing concept.
Black Mirror. Watch some Black Mirror. You won't sleep for a week.
Are you trying to turn me into a narcoleptic?
No, totally not. Totally not. Maybe put off Black Mirror till next week. But yeah, I'm with you, man. It's but again, as always, technology can be good, can be bad. It depends on how we use it, how it manipulates us. And we see what's happening now, even with just the internet and with like the news cycles and all the rest of this. It's they're weaponizing it. And so to say that they won't weaponize the metaverse, you're dreaming. You are freaking dreaming. Look at Instagram. How many young woman suicides do you think is on that body count?
Yeah.
Right. And nobody gives a damn. Nobody gives a damn. It's all about their profit model, and they don't care because that's engagement. And the engagement algorithm, smash those like buttons, keep scrolling the feed, and they don't give a damn how many lives they ruin in the process. And there's a problem.
So now we're just going to level it up to the metaverse.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
I'm so glad we had this conversation. I was looking at the metaverse in a different way, in a more innocuous way, and now you've unlocked something up here in me that I can see it in a completely different way. And that means I have to, navigate that and do a little more research and some stuff. But I'm glad that we got to that place in this conversation, just because I didn't get to hear when you spoke about it on Troubled Minds. And I don't know if you got that deep with it or you talked about that, but.
Oh yeah. We did Metaverse Church. Church inside the metaverse. You want to talk about manipulation?
Absolutely.
Did a whole show on that. Church inside the metaverse. And by the way, the idea came to me. I was thinking, what's the most terrifying thing about the metaverse? Imagine a church service inside where anything can happen. Miracles can be manufactured, right? Back to that whole Cthulhu coming out of the portal on the altar. Things like this can happen for real and seem real inside the metaverse, right? So you can manipulate people's belief systems by digital miracles. And so I was like, all right, this is a concept. This is pretty good. Let's roll with this for a show. I started doing some digging. Turns out within a week, less than a week of the time I did that show, which was just, I want to say Tuesday or Monday of this past week, the very first church service in the metaverse happens tomorrow. Tomorrow, Monday. And it was a concept for me. I was like, that's the most terrifying thing to me, right? Like, you can manufacture digital miracles and you can sway people's opinion through that metaverse experience, right? Sort of tickling that religious experience, that feeling of God on your shoulder sort of thing, those divine moments that, right, those sparks. And so if you can manipulate that in church, I thought this is your concept. I start digging, sure as shit. Within a week of the time I thought of that, they're already doing it. And tomorrow in Arizona, in Phoenix, in suburbs of Phoenix, they're having the very first metaverse church service. It's happening. Yep, it's happening. I was a little shocked. I'm like, damn, I thought I was way ahead of this. Apparently not. I was only a week ahead.
So if you're a week ahead of that 5-year timeline might be a little bit shorter.
Yeah, it might be shorter. Yes. Depends on how fast all the developers jump on board and start building the metaverse. That's what we're talking about. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like.
Wow.
5 years. Let's say it's 2021, 2026. People will be working full-time inside the metaverse. That's my prediction.
That's a mind screw.
Yeah, for sure.
It also makes me think about the, okay, it's there. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's trying to make itself make sense in the way that the analog realm, or you say before digital, does seem more real, and that other place seems real once you're there. I think I'm not a big end times person and rapture prophecy person. I personally think if somebody nailed me down, it already happened, and that's where the 1,000 years went. That's my personal opinion. But if it does say that they're going to try to usurp God, and being in charge of that metaverse would be akin to being in charge of the analog creation.
Exactly.
Only it would be a man or a woman or a group of people or a consortium or whatever it was. And given the way we operate with each other, that's a very, very dangerous thing.
Yes. Think about it. If somebody like Mark Zuckerberg was actually in charge of the code and algorithms that run the reality we live in, as you described as the analog reality, would it explain why it seems like we live in the upside down?
Well, it totally would, which is why if I take it from a biblical standpoint, we have to be in the little season, because the devil has clearly run amok, which I could say, fair point, would be Zuckerberg. But yeah, no, and I appreciate the overlapping realities of a holographic experience being perceived as analog. And then step one further, I don't know if you ever saw, it probably didn't. Very few people saw this movie, but it's called A Mouse and His Child. And it was a cartoon like 1978 or 79. Somebody took me to it for my birthday, and there's a scene in there where there's a can of soup. And on the label, it's got the mouse, and he's holding the can of soup. And on that label is a mouse, and he's holding the can of soup. And it infinitely goes down until you can't make out the pixels. And so when I've heard people talk about a holographic 3D reality, it always brings me back to that damn cartoon when I was about 10 or 11. And I'll probably have to IMDb it and look it up, see how old I actually was. But I was pretty damn young. And I remember what a profound thing it was. And they talked a little bit about it in the movie, and they showed it go to the next soup can and go to the next soup can and go to the next soup can. And for my little child mind, my mind was blown. I was just like, oh my God, that's something huge. And it may turn out to be that's exactly what we're experiencing.
Hard to say. Hard to say. Like I said, my ego rejects it entirely, but my ego's not in charge. So, well, here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's as good a place as any to wrap up a fantastic stream with hopefully a new friend of the channel, Michael Strange, and hopefully Michael Strange from Troubled Minds has more people. We had some people come over and listen one night with you, and it was great. And I'm not doing this to build your channel. I'm doing this because I think you're an interesting guy and fascinating conversationalist. And I knew it would be good to have you here with me and with everybody in chat. So for that, I got to thank you for your time.
Pleasure's mine. Anytime. You are welcome to be on a radio show with me as well. And just let me know. I'd love to have you, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff. As you know, we kind of do it topically and maybe pick something beforehand, and it might be the metaverse. Who knows? Like that's the type of stuff where base reality, maybe that's coming up next. So who knows? What does that even look like? And there's a lot of questions to ask. Real quick, I have a podcast that actually has a pretty wide reach. Are you okay if I cut this up and put it up on the podcast feed?
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. You do anything you want to it. It's our time, and you can express it however you choose.
Okay, so I will do that. And like I said, probably our greatest reach is that podcast feed. So if anybody's out there listening and you're hearing this on the Troubled Minds, this is Algo Rhythm. Please check out his YouTube channel as well. Great dude, as you can tell, a lot of good questions, a lot of good thoughts, and a kindred spirit. And so please do. I'll have the links in the description as well on when we put it up. So please do give love where love is given. And appreciate it. Appreciate your time tonight, Mike, and everybody in the chat. Thanks for showing up. All the Troubled Minds folks, all the folks here on Algo's channel that may or may not know me. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow we may be strangers. The day after that we may be friends. And well, let's hope that's the way this goes. So I appreciate it very much. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Absolutely. So everybody in chat, thank you guys for being here. A lot of the time I like to just keep going and talk to you in StreamYard, but we're not going to do that tonight. It's getting kind of late. So I'm going to just say a few words to Mike after the stream. I thank you guys again, and we will see you next time.